You're not listening to another episode of the Renegade podcast. I'm speaking to the one, the only, Young Money Sports. He's a video SCS, a retrospective person. And yeah, it's going to be a very fun conversation. So 3, 2, 1, go. Hello.
Yo, what's up, man?
Hey, bro. It's nice to see you on here, bro. I've been trying to get you for a while, and for some reason I just didn't have time. But now, like, I just graduated from Humber Polytechnic up in Etobicoke, Ontario,
I got you.
radio broadcasting. So now I have all the time in the world now. So
hey, there it is, man. I graduated from college a year ago too.
Yeah, for sure. How you doing, man?
I'm chilling, man.
Yeah, for sure. I just saw your recent video about Dwayne Wade on the Bulls. I really like that one because I really like your content because, like, the one thing I give you credit for that you're not as, like, reactive as the others. You know, you don't just there is a reason.
I try not to be.
Yeah,
I try not to be.
Like, there's a reason, there's a structure to it, and I like how you give everybody their flowers. You know, I know it's sure it's funny to see Shaq in a Southeast jersey and what have you, but, like, you know, the act like they were trash all the time during that stint, to me, it was just kind of like a lot of things get lost in translation about that.
Well, yeah, like, I was kind of part of that crowd, too, that, you know, when you see Shaq in a Celtics jersey, I mean, you really don't think anything good's going to come from that, but when you really sit down and look at it, like, he really wasn't that bad, especially for his age and his condition at the time. Like,
yeah.
Him averaging 9 points per game or whatever at 38 years old on a loaded Celtics team, like, I mean, you really couldn't ask for more than that.
Yeah.
It's just the injuries that got in the way.
Yeah, I feel like, again, people just, you know, people think that every, like, 38, 39-year-old should be like LeBron or maybe Jordan to a certain extent. And that's just not realistic. That's not, like, the exceptions are the exceptions for a reason, right? So, again, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like today, you know, I think, you know, guys like LeBron, Curry, and KD, like, have really made people forget that, you know, people can age and start to decline when they age. Like, people are surprised that Paul George is struggling so much. It's like, yeah, the dude's entering his mid-30s. Like, of course there's going to be more of a struggle now. And, you know, that's on the Sixers for paying him $50 million a year.
Yeah. I think that people get caught up with, you know, how much assets somebody's worth. Because I look at, like, the Desmond Bain trade. You obviously saw that, and you're like, okay, that sounds ridiculous. But you start actually looking at Bain's game as, okay, now it actually fits. Sure, is he worth 4 first-round picks? 5? No, he's not. But, like, he didn't say, hey, man, trade me for these picks or I won't play. Like, he didn't say any of that, right? So,
yeah, I think it's just, you know, first-round picks in the NBA aren't worth nearly as much as they are in, like, the NFL. So I can understand why teams are more willing to part with them. But still, it's like, you know, the Magic aren't exactly, like, you know, a top-tier team. They are a young, up-and-coming team, but still trading for Desmond Bain, I don't think he's going to turn them into, like, a big championship team. It is still kind of wild that, you know, like, when the Knicks did that for Mikal Bridges, at least they were on the way up.
Yeah.
Had a good, you know, established core. Yeah. But, like, the Magic is, like, they're still on the fringes.
Yeah.
You know, that's where people bring more criticism towards that trade.
Yeah, it's very, very, it is a very interesting dichotomy. So I want to sort of talk about, because the Shaq video was the video that caught my attention, right? And I've been paying attention to you ever since last year. For that video specifically, because that's the most popular video on your channel, was that something you always wanted to do? Or, because I know you've been making videos before, but, like, was that something you always wanted to do, or was that something that it was more of a, like, in the moment type of thing?
So, like, before, when I was kind of trying to find my footing, like, I was trying to do a mix of, it was mainly just, like, current stuff. And, you know, I said my first video was just, like, whatever I felt like talking about. But, like, I really didn't have, like, an established sort of niche. And that's what they say you need to find for YouTube. But then the reason I wanted to do this series was because I watch a wrestling YouTuber called Marky D123.
Yeah,
and he's got a similar series. Yeah, for sure. He has a series where it's like, were they any good? Like, where he looks at a wrestler and their gimmick during a certain time, or like maybe their stint in a company. And kind of rates them like with a point system or whatever. And that kind of inspired me to be like, well, I could do that, but like with professional athletes, you know, and especially I picked Shaq too because it's something that people know about, but nobody ever made like a video actually documenting that whole time in Boston.
Yeah.
And you want to find something that will stick out and people haven't done, because if you're doing the same thing that everybody has done over and over again, you're just throwing more stuff into the void. Like, you're not going to stick out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting answer. So when did you realize you wanted to become a YouTuber, and what was the inspiration behind the name of your channel and the logo?
So, like, from the beginning, it's still like that right now at this point. You know, I'm working as a college football coach right now, and I think that's where I want to be. YouTube, and I'm happy where I am right now career wise, but you know, YouTube it's a fun side thing to do right now, and that's what it started as too. And you know, I always liked, you know, talking about sports, and but also making and creating stuff like that at the same time. You know, I didn't want to just like go on there and, you know, just go off the top of my head, because I tried doing a YouTube channel before, like a sports YouTube channel, but it was very like, you know, there was no structure to it. It was unscripted. It was like all off the dome. There was face cam in it too, so like, you know, I didn't really work well on camera.
Yeah.
So I had to find a formula that actually worked. And this time I was like, I'm going to actually commit to it. I'm going to, you know, write scripts, actually figure out how to edit.
Yeah.
The Young Money Sports thing it was kind of a play on from, you know, my name is Zach Young. You know, Young, and you know, I joke like in high school. That I don't know if it was in jest or not, but some people call me Young Money, and that kind of like, that was a little, you know, and that's why I kind of just stuck. So Young Money Sports, it's something that can kind of roll off the tongue a little bit.
Yeah.
And I didn't figure out until after I made the name that Lil Wayne's sports agency is also called Young Money Sports. You know,
that's funny.
I have more subscribers in the Young Money Sports YouTube channel, the other one, the Lil Wayne one. So I'll take that.
Yeah, it's very, very
interesting. The logo is also something like, you know, I'm not by any means a graphic designer or nothing. It's something that is simple, but can stick out just a little bit. And I'm hoping maybe one day to have the resources maybe to commission somebody to make a little bit of a better one. But I'm cool with the one I got right now. So
very, very interesting answer. So, like, when you saw that your Shaq video like blow up, like, how did you process that? Because like you weren't getting those type of views, and all of a sudden you have like 80K views, and it's like, how do you like process that? Did you expect that to happen, or was that something you always kind of knew that it was going to happen at some point?
You know, I figured it would take off. Like, I figured it would get better views than the stuff that I was putting out. I didn't think it would get to where it's like it's 74K right now. Like, I didn't think it would, you know, help get me to over 1,000 subscribers. And I think, like I said, what I said before, like it stuck out. You know, nobody had ever made like a documented video about Shaq on the Celtics. Everybody knows it's a meme. Yeah. But nobody had ever made just like, and you see highlights. Yeah. Nobody's ever made just like, this is his season on the Celtics. You know, was it as bad as everybody says it is?
Yeah. Very, 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 very interesting. Because you mentioned that you coach college football. Are we talking like D3, D2? Can you sort of kind of explain how did you reach that point?
So from the beginning, before I even started the YouTube channel, I wanted to become a college football coach. Yeah. I went to school for sports management and athletic coaching. Yeah. And I originally actually was going to coach high school football. Yeah. Because I did it the year before for my internship. Yeah. And I was going to do it again because the offers weren't exactly rolling in. Yeah. But then I got an offer from Bethel University in McKenzie, Tennessee. They're an NAIA program. Okay. One of the better NAIA programs in the country. Yeah. Especially like defensively, they've always had a very stout defense. Yeah. And so I work there as a graduate assistant right now. It's basically like a sort of like an entry level intern kind of job where I'm going to school, but I'm coaching at the same time, trying to get my master's degree. Yeah. But it's been a good time. Yeah. I've really enjoyed it. You know, being out there coaching college football it's been pretty fun, especially when you're winning games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about like it's funny because like when I was younger, I didn't really get like the whole hoopla of college football because when I was younger, like, you know, Alabama was like the thing in all college sports. And I got it, but I didn't really. But when I started paying attention, more specifically, I'm gonna shout out 2 teams, okay? Because these are kind of weird teams, but I want to shout out Colorado with Dion and Caleb Williams with UNC. Those were the 2 teams that I'm like, they caught my attention. I'm like, oh, I have not seen this.
Especially Colorado, they were marketing the hell out of them because of Dion and Shadur and Travis Hunter. I mean, they were a very marketable and flashy team. It's just, that second year was a lot better than year 1, but
it was
still,
box
the
office
talent you got. Yeah, I mean, Colorado and Colorado State, that first year they were there.
Yeah.
Like, you had guys like The Rock, and I think it was Lil Wayne maybe that came out there for the game.
Yeah.
It was attention that rivalry probably had never seen before.
Yeah. I think, because I kind of get why people might not like college football, because again, it's like a whole ecosystem. It's pretty complicated, but I don't think it's nearly as complicated now because we have playoffs. It's a lot more like straightforward and stuff. And you see just again the storylines write themselves. I mean, I remember when Ohio State lost against Michigan last year. This is Michigan without Jim Harbaugh and without J.J. McCarthy and all these other guys, right? And it's like, and you're thinking to yourself, bro, like, the coach is cooked. And then next thing you know, they're on this crazy run, and they win the national championship, and it's like, they kind of like, it was like a redemption arc in and of itself from all those past failures. And it sort of recontextualizes everything before and potentially everything afterwards, so.
Yeah. I've really grown to like college football a lot more, honestly, than the NFL, just because, especially for the longest time, my NFL team was nothing to really write home about. But college football, I got to see a lot more success from the teams that I cheer for, and it's just I find it like bowl season. Teams are playing for bowl games and everything. I really enjoy that because like you got a game on like every single day. There's something to play for. It's not a national championship, but it's still like a good way to end your season. Like, you get a big ring out of it. Like I worked at Western Kentucky, the school I went to. I worked on their football team as an equipment manager for a couple of years. I went to a couple bowl games, and those are really fun. Like we went to New Orleans and Florida, and it's like it's basically like a week of it's like a vacation. With a football game thrown in the middle of it.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing. Have you ever obviously are there any because obviously more and more now you're seeing some think about a lot of the best quarterbacks now they're not coming from Power 5 schools, they're coming more small. And Mahomes came from Texas Tech, and Josh Allen came from Wyoming, and I know Louisville has its own thing, but like Lamar Jackson came out there as well. Have you watched those guys in college in real time, or?
When those guys were coming up, I was still, when Lamar Jackson went to college, I was 15. So, the main focus for me was Florida State. Yeah. Florida State was the school that I cheer for, and that had actually had some success for. The first year I cheered for them, actually, they won the national championship. And, it's been kind of up and down from there. But, I'm more I pay a lot more attention to college football now than I did when I was a kid, around the entirety of it rather than just my teams. But, I think what we see now with these quarterbacks and players in general is a lot of them, there are a lot of players that start off at smaller schools. Yeah. And then because of the transfer portal and NIL, they get their chance to go to a bigger school and shine that way. Yeah. And that gets more attention on them, too. You don't really see a lot of guys, and you probably won't for the longest time. You won't really see a lot of guys that a Steph Curry or a Damian Lillard, or even an NFL example, just off the top of my head, like Tony Romo, who play all 4 years or their entire career at a small school and still find, attention and success at the professional level. Yeah. Guys see it now it's an opportunity for them, though, to earn some money from playing college football. Yeah. And it only makes sense because the schools are making so much money off them. Why can't they get a little bit of it back?
I find that sort of the sort of NIL sort of, I find that conversation so interesting because I kind of feel like both sides they do have a bit of a point, but I always feel because I've seen worries about it's going to turn college football into this 4 or 5 team super league type. And I'm it's always kind of been like that. Yeah,
it's been there are times where it's very top heavy. Yeah. I think football also is a sport where most of the time the better team is going to win. It's not like something like basketball,
Yeah.
where a team could just catch fire and end up out shooting the other team, and or the other team just has a bad shooting night. Football, most of the time, the better team is going to win.
Yeah.
And with the whole NIL semi-pro thing, like, I do think there is some problems with that. Like, I'm not a huge fan of how it is treated more as like free agency, basically.
Yeah.
Where because I'm not going to put any blame on the players for taking that money, because it's just a system that the coaches have been using for years now. If they succeed at a small school, they're going to take a big payday at the bigger school, and it's just something that the players are now having the opportunity to do. It's just, but you also don't want the whole sport just to turn into who has the most money.
Yeah,
and I get that probably behind closed doors it's been like that for a while, but now we're seeing that more like publicly.
I feel like the thing with college sports in general is that for a lot of people, it's kind of like their whole lives, right? Like, think about this, right? Like, if you go, I think about like that UConn run Kemba Walker went on. I think it was 2011 or before he got drafted.
And
that one was crazy. And I was because obviously I wasn't actively watching basketball during that time. But when I started getting into basketball, right after the Raptors won the championship, I live in Toronto, right?
I know a Raptors fan. Like, you didn't probably get along real well.
Yeah, and I was just thinking to myself, like, how can I say this? But I was just thinking, like, imagine if like Kemba Walker never made it to the NBA. He will have that UConn moment. We'll still talk about that team, right?
Well, yeah, because like the college, the NFL, or like the professional players, they're like the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah,
like, not the amount of people that make it to play college sports is already pretty small compared to the people that are playing high school sports. But that small number, you're taking 1% of that, and it's like, okay, you're playing professional ball now. And that's why I think we should appreciate more the guys that are able to stick around for as long as they do, like 10 plus years or even 5 plus years. Because like the NFL, the average career length is like 3 years, and then you're done.
The thing is, like, it's so funny because like I look at I'm gonna bring up Dak Prescott, right? He didn't come. He came from a good school. He didn't come from a crazy like Alabama type of school, right? And he gets drafted in the 4th round. He was not supposed to be the starter. Romo got hurt, right? And then he has one of the best rookie seasons ever. He's been consistent ever since, right? To me, he's probably is the best Cowboys quarterback besides Staubach, right? I don't know if that's a hot take or anything like that.
Well, Troy Aikman too.
Yeah. But I just feel like a lot of the Dak criticism is just, again, they're not critiquing his game. I know in the playoffs he's not that good. I understand that. But, again, like, it's like, again, sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. I'm like, the fact he's still playing at a high level after getting that knee injury or leg injury in 2020 does not get talked about enough.
He plays in the Cowboys too. They're just a big joke. Everybody loves to laugh at the Cowboys, and I'm also one of those guys who loves to laugh at the Cowboys because like their fans, especially. Yeah, they're always called they're America's team, and they're always like, "Oh, this is our year," and then it just never ends up working out. It's always really funny when they fail.
You mentioned that your favorite NFL team is not doing well. Can you tell me what team that is?
Well, they actually had a pretty good year this year. I'm a Broncos fan.
Oh, Broncos, okay.
Yeah, I became a Broncos fan in 2012 whenever Peyton Manning joined the team, and stuck with them ever since. And it was fun for 4 years, and then they went on a nearly decade-long playoff drought.
Yeah,
never find a quarterback. And when they drafted Bo Nix, I put it on record even when I made a video about the draft, that year's draft. Like, I was not excited about Bo Nix. He never really stood out to me. He was kind of a vanilla quarterback in college. I mean, he put up great stats for sure, but especially with his age, and he wasn't like super flashy or anything in college. I really didn't have high hopes for him. But even after those first couple of games, it looked like we were going to head down another bad road. But he ended up turning it up, and the Broncos had their best season in almost a decade.
Yeah. So, speaking of the Broncos, because I've been seeing a lot of takes about Denver potentially like winning the division, and I'm like, like I love their additions. Right? I said it on record. Like, I think there's a world where Denver might meet the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, right? Because I feel like
that'd be something,
right? Because again, beating a rival 3 straight times in a season is very, very difficult, right? Let alone a team like Denver that it feels like they're building something very, 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 very special. You know. So, what's your expectations with them next season?
I mean, if everything goes right, I think if you can get lightning in a bottle, I'm sure they could find their way to making a long run. I would love that, but I'm not going to set my expectations like super high because there are some factors like Bo Nix. A lot of good quarterbacks we've seen have sophomore slumps.
Yeah,
and it could be expected that now that you have a full season under your belt, teams have more professional film to scout.
Yeah.
It could be more difficult for him to really get something going.
Yeah.
The receiving room was an issue that really, it was one of our weaker points, especially on offense last year. And they tried to patch it up a little bit. I know they got Pat Bryant in the draft from Illinois.
Evan Ingram.
And they did get Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
That automatically gives us like a guy at tight end, which we haven't had a quality tight end probably since I don't know, like Owen Daniels or Julius Thomas. Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Running back, we have made some improvements. Like, we just got J.K. Dobbins, which I loved.
Yeah.
R.J. Harvey could be okay. And, it's just about like the defense. I don't have any like fears or nothing about them because they've only added to it.
Yeah.
They still look great. They were probably the main reason that we did so well last year.
Yeah.
And it's just about the continued development of Bo Nix and the receivers, and if they can really, find some consistent form.
Yeah. Do you think Bo Nix can become a top 10 quarterback in the NFL for like a good stretch that would allow Denver to like maybe win a Super Bowl in the future or something like that, or get close to one?
I think it'll take more than just Bo Nix, obviously, to win a Super Bowl. The Broncos would need to have like a dog at wide receiver.
Yeah.
To really like complement him, sort of like a Burrow and Chase sort of thing.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, he has some good tools. I think he can move around in the pocket. He is, he's not afraid to launch the ball, which is great. It's something that the Broncos have been missing for a while.
Yeah.
I think with the right people around him, I think he could work his way up to being. I know he's already a quality starter right now.
Yeah.
I think he could work his way up to maybe being top 15, top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
If things really start to work in his favor.
Yeah, that's just great answer. Great answer for sure. Obviously, you're in the same division as the Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs. Do you like hate those teams as much as others? Because I go on Reddit. Do you go on Reddit?
Yeah, I do every now and then.
Okay. Right, there's these subreddits of like these AFC East meme subreddits. I know a lot of it's ironic posting, but there is a lot of venom, right? That Denver gets from Chargers, Raiders, and especially the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs have been super, super successful, so I get that. But do you hate those teams as much as other people do?
The Raiders, not really so much, just because they just are kind of there. They never really do anything, and I also don't really see anything from their fans on social media, so. Nothing really there. Chargers, it's, I don't really hate them. I don't like them.
Yeah.
But it's not really a hatred sort of thing because, they do have some pretty vocal fans that want to talk and everything. But it's like their team is just, I have a hard time believing Chargers fans exist half the time. Like, a couple years ago where, like, this lady was on TV during Monday Night Football. She was, like, really getting into it, cheering for the Chargers. And it's bad when people on social media are like, this isn't a real fan. Like, they're calling her fake. But still, like it's a dislike for the Chargers. I don't dislike Justin Herbert or really a lot of their players, but the Chiefs, that there's a real hatred there. I've hated the Chiefs for quite some time now, especially since they really started to own the Broncos.
Yeah,
and there was that 17-game losing streak
that
we had against them. Yeah, 8 years, 8 years of that seeing them just beat the Chiefs.
That's
like
crazy.
I was telling people, like I went over a third of my life without seeing the Broncos just beat the Chiefs. Not even. Make the playoffs or win a Super Bowl, just beating the Chiefs. You have 2 chances to do that in a year, and you couldn't do it for 8.5 years.
That's crazy. Yeah. What was like again? Because obviously, I think so. I'm gonna take you back to like 2018. This is when the Chiefs really became what they are. You know, Mahomes had that wild season, 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, all that stuff, right? And there's this one primetime game. You probably know what I'm talking about. It was in Denver. Chiefs were down by 4 points. Mahomes is looking like he's gonna get sacked, and then he throws it with his left hand to Tyreek Hill, and he orchestrates another game-winning drive, and Denver doesn't win the game. Like, what was your reaction to that? I can't imagine seeing that and then dealing with that for the next past decade plus.
This was at the beginning of my Chiefs hatred. So Broncos games, just watching Broncos games in general, kind of it brings out the worst in my sports fandom. Because they manage just to do things sometimes that really just make no sense, and it's how could that even happen? But that game right there, even the beginning of the Chiefs winning games, when Mahomes got there, I wasn't super into hating them or anything. It was really when I think it was 2020 is when I really started to cheer against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But there's just some things that the Chiefs, especially those Chiefs games, would make them so much worse that the Broncos would be bad all year long, but yet they would play their best game of the year against the Chiefs. The year that we had the first year we had Russell Wilson and we won 5 games.
Yeah.
2 of their close games that they actually could score points were against the Chiefs, and they still lost.
Yeah.
And it was that game last year, against the Chiefs, where they had the field goal.
The block field. I can't imagine seeing that. I was shook when that happened.
I was ready to jump off my roof, man. I was livid. It was that sort of but it wasn't one where you're jumping around screaming or nothing. It's just like a silent rage.
Yeah.
You just sit there really thinking how the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Where are you based out of? Because I could tell you had that Tennessee Southern type twang to your voice. Where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I went to school at WKU, and then the place I work right now, where I live, of course, because as a graduate assistant, I live in a dorm.
Yeah.
So I live in Tennessee when I work there, which is for about 9 months out of the year.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Across all your the teams that you've been on, coaching and all that stuff, have you ever came across an NFL prospect that got drafted later on, or that hasn't happened yet?
So when I worked at WKU, actually, I was around a good handful of guys that got drafted into the NFL. As an equipment manager, you get picked or you get put in a position group to kind of help them set up drills and basically just help them out with their drills and their practice stuff.
Yeah.
I got put with the defensive line, and a couple of guys I know that got drafted were D'Angelo Malone.
Wow.
He plays for the Falcons.
Wow.
Broderick Martin.
Wow.
He's a nose tackle for the Lions. And then I was there the first year I worked with the team. That was the year I don't know if you know Bailey Zappi.
Wow.
the dude for the Patriots.
Yeah.
He was he's on the Chiefs now, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the year he broke Joe Burrow's record for passing touchdowns, and I think he got passing yards too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then there Malachi Corley, he's the wide receiver for the Jets. He was there.
Okay.
When I worked there, actually, me and Malachi, we played football in Little League.
Wow.
Growing up.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've known each other for a while.
Yeah. Wow. So obviously, people talk about the difference between playing with your guys and then playing with a guy who's going to be in the NFL. How was that seeing just the athleticism and the mentality and the skill just stand out just from everybody else crazy?
Dude, I mean, a lot of those guys, they were dogs on the field, but kind of off it, they were pretty chill. They weren't I don't know. It's kind of hard to put, especially because I wasn't with a lot of those guys off the field. I worked with them a lot in practice, but they weren't trying to just big league other guys. They were just doing their thing, and ended up standing out more than the others just because those guys
Yeah.
had intangibles like Bailey Zappi. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks that I've ever seen. That's why I think he'll stay in the league for a while, at least even as like a practice squad guy or a backup quarterback, just because he's insanely smart.
Yeah.
Which is why he even won a couple games in the NFL as a starting quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that, I mean, that's the thing I think people forget, is that even the guys you think aren't good are like hundreds and quintillion times better than everybody else in the population. But we can't really sort of like separate that, right?
Yeah, and like those guys that are doing well too, like, the guys that are playing college football, especially at the Division I level, they all have some sort of God-given ability and athletic ability. But the guys that are really going to stand out are the guys that push themselves farther and understand the ins and outs of the game and are really dedicated to their craft. You're not just going to walk your way into an NFL contract.
No, you're not. Have you like interacted with like any like coaches that became coaches in the NFL or became coaches in higher like college levels of schools and stuff?
The one coach that I worked with at WKU, the defensive line coach I worked with at WKU, he coached he was one of the defensive line coaches for the Dolphins for a year, and then he's coaching over at University of Texas right now.
Wow. How was he like?
He was cool. He was chill. He was he required a lot of stuff, but for a defensive line, just a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
But for a defensive line, I understand because there's a lot of stuff you got to work for a defensive line. So I guess he's always wanted to make sure he had everything out just in case that he wanted to work something. And I was in no position to be like, nah, coach, we ain't bringing this stuff out. I'd be like, all right, you need 2 sleds and 4 pop-ups and 6 pads. Be like, all right, I got you.
I could imagine the environment there be kind of hectic. Like so when you got that job, right? Did it seem like daunting, or like there was a little bit of fear, or were you always like confident it will go over smoothly no matter where you at?
Coaching at Bethel or working at WKU?
Both.
Well, what I found, equipment manager, I wasn't really, it did seem, it was a new thing, obviously, so there was a little bit of a learning process and kind of getting the bearings and everything, but the overall environment, especially like practices and games, like everything was very segmented and organized.
Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as hectic as people may think. The best practices and coaches especially, like they have everything laid out to the T that they want to do because they don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
You're prepping for a game. This is the most important game of the week. And you want to make sure everything's going straight and going well and nothing's getting messed up.
Yeah.
Equipment wise, like I'd say the same thing too. Like, it was a bit more hectic because we had a lot more stuff to move around, but we still ended up getting the job done because we all knew what we needed to do. And for college coaching, that was sort of a thing where, I coached high school ball for a year, but I understood that this was going to be a lot different, and sure enough, it is because, it's you're not just going out on the field and practicing and then you're done. There's a whole lot more planning that goes on throughout the day.
Yeah.
Game planning, practice planning.
Yeah.
Getting scouting the film.
Yeah.
Just picking out formations and everything. Just there's a whole lot more stuff that the important stuff goes on in the office.
Yeah.
And then we execute that on the field.
Yeah. Interesting. Obviously, I don't know how you feel about there's because you hear these stories about like hazing and stuff like that. Like, have you ever encountered something like that? Like, and how did you feel about that?
In the football locker room, I never really saw anything about hazing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, I've heard something. I've seen fights, but but that's mainly been on the field too. There's never really seen like any hazing or many fights in the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What was your favorite win that you were a part of, and why? And where were you equipment manager or coaching?
Well, I'll start off at WKU. I think My favorite win probably at WKU was the Boca Raton Bowl in 2021 because one of the reasons I wanted to join the WKU team in general was because like I heard that if you win a bowl game, you get like a big championship ring.
Yeah.
And that's something like I played high school football for 4 years.
Yeah.
My teams were always really good, always competing for state championships, but we were never able to get over the hump and win a state championship and get a ring. So that's something that kind of ate at me for a while. But, that Boca Raton Bowl, we played App State in that game, and we won. And so that was like the first time I won something where I got a ring out of it.
Yeah.
And so that was just a really nice moment. Like I finally was like, I can call myself a champion. People can look at it as an equipment manager thing and whatnot, but it's still like I work my ass off. Maybe in a different way than the players or the coaches. But I still work my ass off. I still deserved getting this ring, and that was a great time. At Bethel, it's been a short ride so far. I'm hoping we can get a lot more better wins this year. But last year, I'm trying to think exactly because I think so far it's probably the first game that we played last year, just because that was my first college coaching win.
Yeah.
We played Point University last year in our home opener.
Yeah.
So I think that will, as of now, be my favorite college coaching win because it's the first one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm hoping that we can win even more this year and have some even higher ranked wins.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned you played high school football for 4 years, right? What position did you play, and did you think, right, in an alternative world, you could have been good enough to play in college or even beyond it, maybe the NFL or whatever?
No, I played offensive line and I played linebacker.
Yeah.
And there was no world or reality where because I'm about 5'7", and in high school I weighed about at the most 200 pounds. There was no world in which I was going to go play college football or the NFL. Like I knew once high school was done that my time on the field was done. But I still had a lot of fun playing college football, or not college football. I still had a lot of fun playing high school football, and that carried over. Like when I was in college and I was in a fraternity, I played a lot of intramural sports.
Yeah,
and, those are still really fun. I like playing organized sports when I can, especially like basketball.
Yeah,
just being a competitive guy and being out there and competing is always really fun.
Okay, very, 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 very interesting. How do you feel about the AAU, and because that's also been under a lot of fire recently? I think LeBron and he said something along the lines of he doesn't think this is good for the game, and others have pointed out. I think Kobe pointed this out before he died, rest in peace, that they're not really teaching them how to play; they're teaching them how to win, and it's not how it works.
Well, that's the big problem that we see with lower level sports these days. Is it's not all coaches, but there are a lot of coaches out there who prioritize, winning a little league championship or a lower level championship over teaching the fundamentals of the game and building a love in the game for the players. These coaches got to understand, it's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the guys you're coaching.
Yeah.
And so, in little league football, if you're just running the same play over and over again, because the kid is faster than everybody and you're scoring touchdowns every time, what is that really teaching your guys about football? Really nothing. You want to run what works, and that's what people do in higher levels of football.
Yeah.
But you also want to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Really get them understanding situations in game.
Yeah.
And how to work different plays, so you're not just running the same thing every single time.
Yeah.
Because that could lead to burnout, or just they don't really have a love for the game because they didn't have the right guys to introduce them to it.
Yeah. That's a very good answer. So, again, what do you think could fix that problem? Because I know some people say maybe they should play different sports year-round. While I agree, there's some people that don't have the money to do that. So, what should the solution be, in your opinion?
I think, variation in sports is very important for kids, especially at a younger age. You don't want to if I had kids, of course I'd want them to play, football because that's what I grew up playing. That's what I coach, and that's what I want them to do. But I would also give them other options to play sports, especially ones that are year round, so they're not having to do the same thing over and over again. Because, especially at a younger age, you have the freedom to go play more than one sport, and as you get older, that freedom isn't, as it's not there as much as it was when you were a kid. So like giving them that opportunity to play more sports at a younger age will help them develop a love for the game, and it also will lead to less things like burnout. Like if you force a kid to, if your kid's good at football, but you only let him play football, he's gonna there's a chance that by the time he's in high school, he's gonna hate it because it's the only thing he's ever done.
I feel like, there's also this thing where, like, there's this kind of this little sort of delusion where, like, they see these miraculous stories about these football players and they think, okay, this could happen to my child. No, that's not how it works. Like, I mean, I'll give you an example. McCaffrey did this interview with Barstool Sports. Forgot the guy's name. I think it was Busting with the Boys, something like that. And he mentioned that even he knew what it would take, and it would essentially mean that it would consume his whole life, and he was okay with that. But the thing is not everybody has the genetic ability of a McCaffrey or a Barkley or a Derrick Henry. Those guys were of one, right? Like, so it doesn't make any sense.
Not everybody's got that God-given athletic ability,
right? And also the other thing is like that's why I'm so interested to see how like Travis Hunter's going to do in the NFL, because the one thing I hope it does is that it opens up the fact that you don't just have to play one position all the time, right? I think there is room for versatility, but also on the flip side, it could also we start seeing people try to do what Travis has been doing. And it just doesn't work out because they don't got, again, the ability to do it consistently.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up to being more versatile for sure. But people also got to understand that Travis Hunter is he had a generational kind of college career. Like he's not gonna you're not gonna see a million Travis Hunters. It's just kind of what I'm saying. You're not gonna see a bunch of Travis Hunters. So Travis Hunter had the ability to be a great college wide receiver and a good starting quality college cornerback. And, they're most of the times they say that cornerbacks are wide receivers that can't catch. It's not like it should be a slight if somebody can only play one side of the ball. I think, like I said, it'll be good for versatility, especially if you're at a higher level of football, like college or professional. If you're open to playing both sides of the ball, or maybe you say, I'm not working as a receiver, can I go play cornerback? That opens the door for more versatility, maybe getting you more reps. But at the lower levels, I think it's because you can play both sides of the ball in lower levels. It's kind of a weird thing. I don't know. The professional level, I think it's most guys just stick to one side of the ball.
Yeah,
especially getting full big reps on both sides. If you're not getting reps on one side, it's fine to switch.
Yeah.
But if you're getting starting reps as a wide receiver, you don't have to also try to be a cornerback.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting. So obviously, last Super Bowl again, I remember just seeing the Chiefs just get demolished like that, especially in the first three quarters was just so wild because I was so used to them they're down by a big deficit. I expect them to win, which is again speaks to their
obnoxious at points.
Speak to their ability. But how did you feel? Were you shocked by that? Because I was shocked.
Yeah, I was having a great time, man. I was drinking that haterade, man. Of course, thing is, I wanted to see the Ravens and the Commanders. I think a lot of people wanted to see those two teams, and we kind of got stuck with two teams that just their fan base is I don't dislike the Eagles players. I like Saquon, I like Jalen Hurts, I like A.J. Brown. I like those guys. but it's just like their fans. There's a lot of them that are just like, man, if they win, they're gonna riot. If they lose, they're gonna riot. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, again, I don't know why I've been seeing a lot of like, I've seen a lot more like, is the Chiefs dynasty dead? Like, how do you feel about that? Obviously, you're a Denver fan. You want that to happen, but do you think that is realistically a possible option?
No, because they're very similar probably to like the Patriots dynasty, where they have Mahomes, so they're always going to have a chance. They have Travis Kelce. People are always going to want to go play for the Chiefs because they're a team that is likely going to make a run to a deep playoff run to the conference championship or the Super Bowl. I mean, they've made the conference championship every year since 2018. So you're in for at least a deep playoff run if you join the Chiefs, and they do have an eye for scouting as well. So I don't. As soon as when Mahomes starts to fall off, then you'll start to see the Chiefs struggle and fall off. But as long as he's there, as much as it hurts me to say, like they're not going away anytime soon.
Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl next year?
Well, the pessimist in me is saying the Chiefs, but I would like to believe that maybe some other teams could pull through, like Detroit. Of course, they lost their offensive coordinator, so who knows where that's going to go. Maybe. I'd like to see Washington make another deep
You know
run.
what? I want to throw in another team. I don't think people are talking about enough. Tampa Bay, to me, is a top 10 team in the NFL. And now that might sound crazy, but you look at that roster, I'm getting a lot of like 2020 vibes from them. Like, they may not have like 13, 14 wins, but when they go on a run, then I think people will recognize it right afterwards. I really think a Chiefs versus Buccaneers Super Bowl next year with Baker Mayfield on the other side would be crazy.
Maybe it just depends on how Baker does, because Baker is definitely a quality starting option, but he also likes to turn the ball over a lot, so that could end up screwing them up late in games. Like they did drafts. They had a pretty good draft this year. They already have a pretty stacked receiving room, so adding that dude from Ohio State is only going to make them better. And Mike Evans is still playing at an elite level.
Yeah.
Their defense is still pretty good, and they play in a very weak division, so they really have no problems winning that. Yeah. It's about, with a lot of these teams, it's about how well is their quarterback going to do.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, we've seen the last couple of years, he is a good starting quarterback, Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. But the question is, like, is he going to elevate his game even further to get Tampa Bay to a Super Bowl?
Yeah. Do you think, like, obviously, like, as long as Buffalo and Baltimore have their quarterbacks, they're going to be good, they're going to be competitive, they're going to potentially might make a deep playoff run every year. But do you think they missed their best opportunities to get to a Super Bowl the last 2 years when the Chiefs, offensively at least, have not been what they were before?
Yeah, those are definitely huge whiffs. Like, the Chiefs in the last couple of years have not had just this outstanding offense. Their defense has been really what they've leaned on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Ravens and Bills they're just going to be bridesmaids in the AFC forever. I think. It's just they've had so many chances, especially like the Ravens in the last couple of years have had some great chances to do it.
Yeah.
And like the same can be said for Buffalo. Like they just had good opportunities to make a deep run and make the Super Bowl, even win a Super Bowl if they beat the Chiefs. They just can never beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. Do you think it's not become like the Raptors versus LeBron, where like it's just so psychological, where they just, for whatever reason, when the Bills face the Chiefs, Mahomes, Andy Reid, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, it's like they can't function. It was so weird because I was watching that game against the Chiefs Bills championship, AFC championship game last season, right? And I was just like, none of what they were doing in the fourth quarter. After, like, again, the game was tied. Mahomes goes on another game-winning drive. They have 3 timeouts, almost 3 minutes left on the clock, and they go for 14 yards. And Josh Allen gets spooked by, again, Trey McDuffie's phenomenal defender, but like he gets spooked by a guy a foot smaller than him. He whips the pass, and again, the Chiefs close it out. It's just like at some point something got to change. I'm not saying they should trade Josh Allen away, but like something got to change. Like,
because I would think of it like the Steelers throughout the Patriots dynasty.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they won 2 Super Bowls, but I don't think they ever beat New England to get there.
Yeah.
Something like the Chiefs would have to lose to somebody else for the Ravens or Bills to get to a Super Bowl.
I don't think that's
win
going
a
to
Super Bowl.
happen.
It's the thing. You don't know if it's ever going to
happen. Right. If it was going to happen, it would have already happened. Like, that's the thing, right? People, because I don't know why. I've been seeing, like, these takes about, like, Josh Allen is the best quarterback. And I'm like, look, I get, like, I don't believe in quarterback wins, but also I don't believe in just using stats as an argument either. I think it's a bit of both. And I don't know how you watch any of those playoff games, especially the last two against the Chiefs, you came away thinking that Allen was the best player on the field. I don't know, like, again, sure, those games were very close, but, like, again, like, he had his opportunities, and he didn't take them. Like, at some point, like, you're 0-4 against somebody else, man. Like, the argument kind of sort of says itself in a way.
Yeah, I've had my issues with the NFL MVP award in recent times. I really figured out it's just the best quarterback award at this point, because the quarterback is like, it's such a stat-heavy position. It's like, well, if a receiver scores a touchdown, it's also a touchdown for a quarterback. And sometimes it could be the same for the running back, and the quarterback can also run it in for a touchdown. They get plenty of passing yards and rushing yards. They can accumulate all the stats.
Yeah.
And, like, 2023 was when I really figured out that a non-quarterback is just never going to win the award.
Yeah.
Because, like, they had Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was in MVP conversations because he had a Pro Bowl roster around him. Meanwhile, Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill were having outstanding seasons and couldn't even sniff the MVP award. And Lamar Jackson, who didn't even have that good of a year.
Yeah, I feel like, like, here's the thing, right? Like, maybe I'm more higher on Lamar than anyone else right now, but I feel like, I think, the MVP in general, I think there needs to be clear guidelines, right? Look, I know Mahomes didn't have that great of a season, but the fact that a 15-win, a guy, like, the best player on a 15-win team, a guy who has 7 game-winning drives, a guy who's won, I think he was like 6 or 7-1 against playoff teams that year, is not even in the conversation. That's what I knew, like, okay, like, I know what they're trying to do here, type of thing. I understand statistically he wasn't great, but, like, come on now.
Yeah, like, I think Mahomes, that Chiefs team also, their defense, like I said before, their defense was the best unit on that team. So, like, Mahomes did what he needed to do to win games, but he wasn't exactly, like, lighting up the stat sheet or anything.
Yeah. So, what do you think, like, out of, like, all of the quarterbacks not named Mahomes, who do you think, like, is going to probably win a ring in this era of the Chiefs' dominance? Do you think Lamar might get one? Josh might get one? Do you think they might have to leave the AFC? I think that might be more of a possibility than people realize, in my humble opinion.
Dude, I mean, probably have to leave the AFC at this point to do it. It'd have to be somebody in the NFC to win a ring. Like, I'd like to say, like, maybe Jared Goff, if the Lions can. The Lions, they also had just, like, an egregious amount of injuries on defense last year. So they were cooked from the start. But, there are going to be a lot of questions around them this year just because they lost Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Their offensive coordinator from last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from that. I think it'll be a really big year for Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
To really see how he approaches this year, coaching-wise.
Yeah.
But, like, an AFC quarterback that could win a ring in this Chiefs dynasty besides Mahomes, like, I mean, geez, maybe the best options probably are still Allen and Lamar. You're just hoping that they can get lucky and finally get one over on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's always just a big question mark.
Yeah.
You never know if they're going to actually break through.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if this is, I'm going to say a take, right? I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this or not. I think that this era of quarterback play, I know a lot of people, for some reason, like, I swear, at the start of every season the last couple of years, oh my goodness, quarterback play is so bad, yada yada. And the next thing you know, those people aren't there. When those guys are sort of lining up the stat sheet, I look at it like, I feel like we're in, I think, the deepest quarterback era ever. What I mean by that is that, think about the worst quarterback in the league right now that's consistently starting games. Let's say it's Daniel Jones, for example, right? Because he hasn't been that good since 2022. But he still is much better than someone like Brock Osweiler. And he was starting for teams that winning division titles. Granted, the AFC South is not great, but like still, like I feel like I can even go higher. I think someone like for example, you can like swap. I don't know. This might sound a little bit crazy, but I feel like if you put someone like a Kirk Cousins or a Dak Prescott in the 80s or in the 90s, I honestly think they might low-key shred it. Because they have all the knowledge of the game now and then. They have the physical capabilities. They have the arm talent, right? To me, it's like, I feel like we kind of take it for granted how talented, how good some of these guys are. So we have to sort of nitpick and pretend they're not that good just to like prop up our own favorite QBs. And I understand that. People do that in music and all across the board. So, yeah.
Well, football is also a game, though, where, the game changes all the time. Like, you say, like, in the 80s and 90s or even, like, the 70s, especially those earlier times, like, the running game was a heavy emphasis. And, they always say, like, a great quarterback you should never look up the stats for is Terry Bradshaw, because if you did and you didn't know what area he played and you think he was a bum, it's just what we've seen in recent times, too, is that defenses they're playing against the pass. They have two high safeties, which is used to prevent teams from just chucking the ball every time. So when you have guys farther back, that opens up the run game, the quick game. It's just offenses and defenses are always, they're always finding ways to counter each other. Yeah. Like I said, offenses are chucking the ball deep. Well, we're going to have more safeties back there to prevent from doing that. Okay, you're going to have more people in the back. We're going to start running the ball more. We're going to start throwing more screens and dump passes and short routes. Yeah. The game is always evolving. It's always changing. And I think at some point we could see a return to, more like high-octane, explosive offenses that are – and quarterbacks are just lighting up the stat sheets. Yeah. But, right now the meta is, longer drives to eat up clock, tire defense out, but still end up scoring points. Yeah. And, we saw a lot with the Chiefs last year, a great example of that. Their offense was nothing crazy. Like, it wasn't, a high, flashy offense, but they would still work you. Every time on third down, it didn't matter what it was, they would still convert on third down, keeping your defense out there longer, keeping the clock running. Yeah. And they would still score. And then say you get a 3-and-out with their great defense, well, then they're right back on offense. They're doing the exact same thing, scoring again. Yeah. And, it's just, like I said, the game is always changing. It's always evolving. Yeah. And the offenses and defenses are always finding ways to try to one-up each other. Yeah.
So, I want to preface this. Like, I'm a big Steelers fan, and I'm kind of mixed on the Aaron Rodgers signing. But I've been seeing way too many people been, like, rewriting Aaron Rodgers' career. And that's kind of, like, pissing me off because, like, I swear people were saying before he's the most talented quarterback ever. He might be the best quarterback ever, but he doesn't have the support, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And now all of a sudden he's a bum. Stafford is better than him. This person, I'm like, what? Like, I like those guys, but those guys aren't Rodgers, especially not at his peak. Like, why do you think that happened?
If we're talking about 2025 Rodgers, then for sure Stafford's better. But I think Aaron Rodgers, like more people have figured out, me included, that he just, there's a lot of deflection on his end too. Like he likes to blame his teammates for a lot of things. He has shown himself not to be the greatest leader in the world in recent times. I'm not one to say, like, in his peak that he was like that. I don't know. I really wasn't paying attention around the time, but we've seen, like, with his later years in the Packers and time with the Jets, that there are a lot of questions about his character, and so I think that's why people are more, and mixing that with the decline in his play, that allows a lot of opportunities for people just to dunk on him. And also, he's shown to be a bit of a crazy person with this, like, his all his weird. I don't even know what he was taking last year to, like, help him recover from his Achilles. Some weird stuff, man. Yeah, I understand that, and I do, like, again, I'm because he's probably not a good person. I'm gonna be real, but I mean, in a sport where a lot of, again, not a lot, but quite a few of the best guys that ever do it weren't great people either. There isn't that same type of energy that's being spent here. Is this because those guys were just more likable in the locker room, or was it just because people just don't care? I think there's a difference between like being an asshole and then just being a bad leader.
Yeah.
Like, you could probably find some all-time greats that maybe were assholes to their teammates, but they still were willing to lead them, willing to take charge, willing to take accountability. And you may not see the same thing from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Who could also be described as an asshole, but he also would go on Pat McAfee and blame wide receivers for dropping a ball.
Yeah. Where do you like? So my question would be like, so how do you think the Steelers are going to do next season? Like I'm a little bit higher, maybe because we haven't been this active in the off season since God knows when, especially since Big Ben retired. So I mean, where do you see them in the AFC picture?
Shoot, they'll probably just go 9-8 again. Like they love. That's Mike Tomlin's thing, man. He's never had a losing record, so I'm sure they'll probably find some way to go 9-8. I mean, their defense is still really good. They still got T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, I really don't know because, their offense in recent years has not been that great, and they lost Najee Harris, right?
Yeah.
He went to did he go to the Chargers?
Yeah, he went to Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there are some questions offensively, but it also depends on the strength of their schedule too. I mean, the AFC North is that's a whole different kind of football than everybody else.
Yeah.
But it just depends on a lot of things. And, like I said, their schedule, the quarterback play, Aaron Rodgers, if he has anything left, because I don't know. The Steelers are always a very mixed bag. They haven't really been contenders in quite some time.
Yeah.
They haven't been straight up just terrible.
Yeah.
Remember, y'all got Russ last year. And I was like, because that whole experience in Denver was rough. I didn't think it'd get any lower than it had been, but by God, they found a way.
Yeah.
Russ just was not a good fit in Denver at all.
Yeah.
When he went over to Pittsburgh, like he had some good games, and I was thinking like, just wait. The bottom's gonna fall out.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it did.
I don't know. Like, here's the thing. Like, I like Russ more than most people, even before he went to Denver. But even then, like, I swear, like, why do you think his play, even at his peak, tends to fall off in the second half of the season? Like, in the first half, he's looking like an MVP, and then the second half, it's like, it just kind of goes off the rails. Why do you think that was an issue in his play?
I'm sure there's some wear and tear, especially at least in his peak in Seattle. I mean, he never had a great offensive line and getting hit a lot. Probably has something to do with it, dealing with injuries, and and as the season goes on, you're going to see players either really turn things up or start to wear down.
Yeah.
Like in Denver, Russ that never got going. Russ, like I think in 2 years in Denver, he had like 2 or 3 games maybe where he passed for over 300 yards, and it was never a good fit, especially that first year there. The offensive line was really rough. They dealt with a lot of injuries. The second year it was better for sure, but Russ still didn't look like he was going to be Denver's answer.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they really decided to let him go.
Yeah.
And they paid him $30 million not to play for their team.
That's
which is
crazy.
Terrible.
That's crazy.
Well, yeah, like they signed him to, like, as soon as they got him, because he only had 2 years left on his contract, they signed him like this big $250 million extension. And I thought that was a bit questionable because the dude was like 34 when he signed or when he got traded to us. And sure enough, like that ended up coming back to bite us in the ass because we had to cut Justin Simmons for that.
Yeah.
And just cut a lot of pieces because you have to pay $30 million to a guy that's not on your team.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Justin Simmons, do you think he might come back to Denver? I know he wasn't that good with Atlanta. I know he's actually been one of the better defensive players, especially in Denver. Do you think that hometown reunion might happen this season?
I'd love for Justin Simmons to come back to Denver. Like he was like kind of one of the faces of the team during that time where we were struggling and missing the playoffs, and it did suck to see him go. And safety is a position that the Broncos still need some depth at. I mean, we did get we got that dude from the 49ers, Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's been pretty good. So we got him, but defensive back was one of our weaker spots. So I feel like Simmons would still have a place. and I would love to have him come back, but who knows where he could end up finding another spot.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Chargers. How do you feel? Do you think Jim Harbaugh will lead that team to success, at sort of consistent success, sort of just playoff runs and maybe a Super Bowl or two in the future?
If they can get Justin Herbert some more consistent help, I mean, they got Lad McConkey and they did bring over Najee. I think they have pieces, and Justin Herbert he's not a bad quarterback by any means. He's definitely probably the best quarterback to ever come out of Oregon.
Yeah.
So I think, and Harbaugh is a good coach. We've seen him win championships in the past.
Yeah.
He can for sure lead them to success and probably making consecutive trips to the playoffs. But, a Super Bowl is all going to depend on what they can do to bring in help for Justin Herbert, because I don't think their defense wasn't outstanding last year either. So there's a lot of holes they got to fix if they really want to contend and win a Super Bowl, not just be okay making the playoffs. I
feel like, to me, do you feel like, again, the Justin Herbert sort of discourse, I feel like, I don't know, this might sound like I'm hating or something, but I really feel like he's not improved since 2021 in terms of just his play. Now, I know injuries and bad coaching and bad defenses and now depleted offensive cast have not helped things, but for some reason, even when he's facing my team, I'm not like, okay, this guy's going to kill us. I'm like, okay, how can we win in despite of him type of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, Herbert, I think a lot of that has to do, too, with, he hasn't really had, consistently great options to go to on the offense. People always say, they call him if man. He's got, it's like, well, if Justin Herbert had this and that, then he'd be great in it. There is some truth to that.
Yeah.
Because, even, Joe Burrow, for the faults of the team, he does have consistent receiving options to throw to. He has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase that he can go to. Herbert, the best receiver he's had is
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, and
Mike
that was
Williams.
At the tail end of his prime, and Mike Williams was never healthy. And maybe McConkey could be that piece, but you still want more depth in that receiver room, not just Lad McConkey. Yeah. That makes game planning a lot easier for the Chargers. When they cut Austin Eckler, it's like, man, you're getting all of his receivers taken away, and then you're also cutting his running back.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not really leaving him with much.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with that is, I really feel like, I don't know, but if someone were to tell me, what is Justin Herbert's most iconic moment, I would honestly say his rookie game against Kansas City, or maybe his game against the Raiders when he missed the playoffs, even though they could have both tied and they both could have made it, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
That's not good, man. For a top 6 pick, it's not crazy to say, I mean, I don't know why that, again, because I don't know, I watched that Texas game when it happened, the Chargers-Texas game. I don't know, again, maybe that was just him at his absolute worst. But I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is the guy you guys keep telling me is an elite quarterback. This is the guy you guys keep telling me he's his top 10, his top 5, he's better than this guy. I'm like, huh? And he couldn't even complete 4 or 5 passes again. It was just horrific to watch. He threw more picks in that game than in the regular season. I don't know how that's even possible.
Yeah, I still am high on Justin Herbert a little bit, just because, like I said, he's the best quarterback to ever come out of Oregon. That's not even a question. Maybe unless Bo Nix does something, but but I mean, he's definitely not a I wouldn't call him a disappointment or a bust by any means. He's still really good.
Yeah, it's
just like I keep saying, he doesn't really have some of the options that other teams do, and someone could say well, Mahomes doesn't have a great receiving room either, but he's still got Travis Kelce, and Mahomes also we've seen Mahomes is a higher tier quarterback than Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
that's not really a debate. Mahomes, I feel like he has the skills and capabilities to work with guys that maybe don't have as much skill, but for someone like Herbert, you probably do need to have a go-to guy for him. And you probably also need to have a good quality defense. Like Mahomes has a great defense, and that helps him out a lot when maybe he's struggling in a game.
Yeah.
Football, like I've said, it's the ultimate team game.
Yeah.
Like you can't just have like the actions of one guy could directly influence how another guy plays.
Yeah.
If an offensive line ain't playing good, then the quarterback is going to struggle. But if the quarterback ain't good, then the receivers are going to suffer. They all kind of bled into each other.
Yeah.
If a defense sucks, then it doesn't matter how many points an offense is going to put up; they're still not going to win, like we saw with the Bengals last year.
Yeah.
It's all 22 players in there. Actually, I'll say 33 because it's special teams. Like every single unit needs to be complementary of each other.
Yeah.
They need to all be effective for a team to really want to go far and win games.
Yeah. Yeah. Great answer. Why do you think the sort of the conversation around quarterbacks is now it's turning into like it's turning the NFL aspect of it into an individual sport where it's, again, as you said, it's maybe the most team sport out of all the sports, right? Because again, all these other things are in play. Like, why do you think we've reached this point?
Well, because quarterbacks are the position that gets the most attention. They're the ones that had the ball in their hands from, the start of the play until sometimes the end of the play. They are the ones that control the offense.
Yeah.
It's the most important position to have on the field.
Yeah.
You can't win without a good quarterback. So there's a lot more scrutiny put towards that position. It's easier to put the problems of a team on a quarterback. It's like if they're struggling, it's like, our quarterback just sucks. And so, like I said, there's a lot more eyes on the position, a lot more criticism going towards it because they can influence the team so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, again, another great answer. So how can I say? So let's sort of, again, let's pivot back to the NBA. OKC are one game away from winning the championship, first time ever. Do you think, regardless of who wins these finals, do you think that we might see a new dynasty? Because I know that we haven't seen a back-to-back champion since the Warriors have done it, which feels like forever ago, right?
Yeah.
So in this new parity era, is a dynasty dead? Or do you think it can still happen, but not in the same way as before?
I think because like a dynasty, I agree with the definition. It's like you got to win, I think it's like 3 championships in 5 years, something like that, to really be considered a dynasty. And I don't know if that's really possible at this point with the second apron coming in. That it really prevents, like, it's a measure against like super teams.
Yeah,
from what I've kind of seen. Even affects smaller role players too.
Yeah.
Because like the Nuggets, when they wanted to re-sign guys like Bruce Brown and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they couldn't do that because they just didn't have the cap necessary to sign those guys back.
Yeah.
Think like the Celtics too could be in danger of that with losing guys maybe like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Just the money is just not there for a team to have the same guys, because we're also in a different NBA meta where you can't just have 3 great guys and then the rest are bums. You need a superstar, an all-star caliber player, and then just a lot of bench depth.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep that around consistently when the money is constantly going up for these kind of guys. Teams are willing to pay more than maybe what you have.
Yeah.
And so teams are having to start from square one. I mean, the Nuggets, they won their championship, and then they've still been good, but they haven't had the pieces around them to really get back to winning a championship. And it seemed like it could be more of a one-off thing.
Yeah. It's funny because, speaking of one-off things, it's funny because I don't know if you saw this segment on First Take. I don't pay attention to that nonsense, but I saw it on my timeline. I'm like, I'll watch it. How bad could it be? And I saw Stephen A. Smith have a take that I was thinking about a lot. And I don't know, it's probably his first good take, in my humble opinion, in a long time. And he said that if Giannis only wins 1 championship, he has underachieved because of, he did this sort of parabola about how great he is, yada, yada, yada. As a person that's never liked him, as a player, as a person that thinks that his place in the hierarchy of the NBA, to me, was unearned, and I would say a little bit, was kind of planted by, by an NBA to sort of cater to a certain market, and then after 2021, he's only won 1 playoff series. He's 1-8 in the last 9 playoff games. He's not won a playoff series without Mike Budenholzer as his coach. He hasn't made an all-defensive team in a couple years. Like, how do you feel about Giannis in general? It's just sort of discourse
I
around
think
him.
Giannis is still a top tier player, man. I've always thought, like, especially with his rise in 2018 and 2019, like, I thought the dude is a stud, and to really say that, he's an underachiever if he only won one championship is kind of it's kind of ridiculous to say too, because like I saw Jay Williams say on First Take, like, you're calling guys like Dirk and Oscar Robertson and somebody like that only wins one championship with the team, and you're calling them underachievers. And I think that's a bit ridiculous to say, because people don't understand, especially these kind of talking heads. They don't understand how hard it is really to win a championship. Like, how many guys, especially even great players in the history of sports, can say they won a championship? Like, there are plenty of guys of great players who had great careers but never won a championship.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit disingenuous to be like, yeah, he won a championship, but he could have won more. And there is some truth behind that. And ever since 2021, the Bucks have sort of, there's been a lot of things though that have screwed them up. 2022, that was just, Boston was the better team.
Yeah.
But 2023, that was just the whole thing. Like, Giannis was playing hurt, but as a Miami Heat fan, I also will say that Jimmy Butler was playing at an insane level, averaged like almost 40 points per game.
Yeah.
The Heat as a team shot, like, they all shot way above their pay grade. Like,
Yeah.
I did that whole hour and a half video, whatever I did about the Heat. Like, one of the things I saw was like, they were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. And in that series, they shot like nearly 40%. So everything had to go right for Miami to win that series and go to the finals. And just unfortunately for the Bucks, it ended up happening. And then last year, Dame and Giannis were both injured. Same could be said this year. Giannis still was playing well, but Dame tears his Achilles, and you still have Doc Rivers as your coach. So nothing's really going to come from that. So I wouldn't really put the blame on Giannis so much for this, because with all he's accomplished in Milwaukee, you could legitimately make a case for him being the best player in that franchise's history. Because I know Kareem did play there, but Kareem wasn't there as long as Giannis. And, Kareem, when you think of him, a lot of people will think of him on the Lakers because he won a lot more championships over there.
Yeah.
So Giannis, like, he was there from the beginning when they were horrible and, won 15 games.
Yeah.
He's won MVPs, All-Star appearances, Defensive Player of the Year. He brought them a championship. It was their first one in 50 years.
Yeah.
Which is, that's insane.
Yeah.
So if he leaves, I think he's done all he could in Milwaukee, really, individually. As a team, I think the Bucks could have won more, but I wouldn't put that on Giannis. I put that on, like, injuries and bad luck and coaching and stuff like that.
I feel like, again, I do agree to a certain extent, but, like, you gotta understand, like, I'm a Raptors fan, right? And we play the Bucks a lot because they're, I think, in the same division as or something like that.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I never got the feeling I'm like, oh my god, man, Giannis is playing. I never was like, I really feel like, again, the one thing is, I think it's more about his fan base than really him specifically. I never really saw it that, again, because I see some really bad takes, about, again, I see some people say Giannis is better than Tim Duncan on Twitter. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, again, there's others about, he's been the best player since 2018. I'm like, again, what are you talking about? Like, it's just like, it's stuff like that. And also, again, like, there's something that people don't bring up. I really feel like, again, you're a Heat fan. Jimmy Butler outplayed that man in 2 out of the 3 playoff series he's faced against him as a Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum outplayed him. Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam. Again, numbers-wise, they may not look like they outplayed him, but you watch the games, especially Game 5, where, again, like, I don't know, Gary Trent was saying something crazy to the crowd or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you really want to do this? You're down 3-1. You're not even won the game yet. And the next thing you know, Tyrese Halliburton crosses up Giannis, and he game winner, ends the series. And I'm just like, because people were saying before that series that the Bucks could go on this 2018 LeBron run. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, again, and then they're backtracking and saying, well, we never said that. Now, the tweets are still there. The videos are still there. So, like, I think, in my humble opinion, like, because obviously the Raptors, they've been rumored to get him. I'm like, bro, don't do this. Don't do the same mistake that Knicks did with Carmelo Anthony. Again, we're going to trade all those assets away, and we're going to be in the same situation, if not worse.
See, I will say, though, about that, you said about Jimmy Butler. Like, I think that comes down to a lot of game planning and defensive schemes. Like, in 2020, the Heat had, their big game plan from what I saw from watching the games is like, we're going to make somebody besides Giannis beat us.
Yeah.
We're not going to let Giannis just take over and win the game for them.
Yeah.
We're going to make somebody else win. So what they would do is that every time, because Giannis, his big thing, and it still is today, is like, he's a big driver, he's a big slasher. Because he's just an athletic freak. He can drive and dunk.
Yeah.
And that works for him. So what the Heat would do is that whenever he would go one-on-one with somebody and he started to drive, they just crash.
Yeah.
They crash the paint and force him to kick out. And that would leave it up to his shooters, and they just weren't hitting their shots.
Yeah.
The opposite could be said for how they played Jimmy Butler both in 2020 and 2023, where they were like, we're just going to have him go one-on-one every single time, which made no sense. Like, the dude just dropped 56 points, and then you're still having him go one-on-one with, some good defensive players like Wes Matthews and Drew Holiday, but then you also have Joe Ingles on him, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, that's just, it's the coaching that really helps out. Like Eric Spoelstra, I've said before, he's the best coach in the league.
Yeah,
he he knows how to game plan for this stuff, and that's the reason. Like Giannis, on his own, will not beat a team because it's sort of easy to game plan around him. You need a great team you need a great team around him, and that can be said for most. Like nobody else is going to be 2018 LeBron. You need a great supporting cast around you to win anything in any sport.
Yeah.
But Giannis, it could be a bit easier for you to game plan around him just because his skill set offensively is a bit limited compared to other superstars.
Yeah. The thing is that like as again, whoever wins his finals will again have the same amount of rings as Giannis has, but I don't because again, that's why like. This take about like championships or a team accomplishment in the NBA, I don't really agree with that. Like I understand where people were coming from, right? But but this thing is it's like the saying, right? This New York Jets coach back in the day said this perfectly. You play to win the game.
Yeah,
simple as that. Doesn't matter how much you play to win, but I really feel like. People have not become obsessed with stat watching and taking things out of context and making things up to benefit their guy that they like. Like, when do you think that started, and how do we sort of stop that from like sort of mutating into something worse?
Well, I think that this finals really is going to put an end to, the ring culture or whatever, like where, you have a skill like where the ring count is the only thing that. Influences the discussion on who's the better player because, like Shea, I really like Shea. I really like Tyrese Halliburton, but I've seen takes on Twitter being like, well, if Shea wins this, then he's better all time than Chris Paul. And it's like, you can't say that yet just because he has a ring.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Paul is an all-time great point guard. Shea has the potential to be an all-time great player, but I'm not going to sit here and say that if he wins this championship, he's better than Chris Paul just because he has a ring.
Yeah.
So I think this could end up being what we see at like the end of ring culture, like I said, as they like to call it, where just because someone has a ring, that makes them better.
Yeah,
because I think in the NBA it still is a team accomplishment, especially in today's era where you need a deep bench to win a championship. It's the contributions of everybody from the starters to the 15th man on the bench. Everybody has a part to play.
Yeah,
and so this is the time where you can really say that winning a championship is a team accomplishment. You have guys that stand out more and are the all-stars and the MVPs, but they still need those guys around them to put it all together.
Yeah. Yeah, great take. Do you, like, I don't know, like, okay, so who do you think is the GOAT in the NBA, like, all time?
See, I'm more of a Michael Jordan guy. But I could definitely see why somebody would say LeBron, because Michael Jordan. I did kind of just say the thing about the rings, but Jordan also, he did win. He was undefeated in the finals. He also was a very dominant scorer. He won 10 scoring titles. But if someone said LeBron, purely based off his insane athletic ability and also his accomplishments, I could see that. Like LeBron and his longevity has been. Something that has really shown out over the years. Like I was talking to to my friend who knows a lot about hoops too. Like he said it's more of like a 1A 1B thing. It's like take your pick, you know.
Yeah.
If it's LeBron, that's fine. If it's Jordan, that's fine too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because it's kind of like the same thing is kind of happening in the NFL with Mahomes and Brady, right? And that's why if the Chiefs three-peated last season, there's still going to be people because to me if Mahomes hits 7 rings, if Mahomes is 7-1, the take would be that Mahomes 7-1 would be the new 6-0, where again, sure, he may not reach as many Super Bowls as Brady, but he reached them quicker. You could argue he had a higher peak, more athletic. You can say all these things, right? I really feel again, there are a lot of things that do get lost in context because again, history we love to romanticize certain things and certain players. So, how do you feel about that?
Comparing Brady and Mahomes, especially when bringing up their accomplishments, I've kind of figured out football, and like I said, it's the ultimate team game. So comparing their team accomplishments, I think if Mahomes, because Mahomes definitely has a major part to play in all those games that they're winning.
Yeah.
So if he wins 7 rings, or I think the only way, honestly, to me, because and part of it is my hatred for Mahomes as a Broncos fan, but only way I could really see him being called the GOAT is if he wins more than Brady.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be hard to do because, football, it's just they make winning look easy, the Chiefs do, but in reality, especially in football where you lose a game and you're out of the playoffs, you don't get a redo.
Yeah.
It would be hard. And the dude's already 28, and I know Brady won a lot of his rings actually later in his career, but it's still not an easy thing to win a Super Bowl. We have this discussion all the time I see on Twitter of what championship is the hardest to win? And it's a really good debate to have because you can make a case for really any of them.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into each championship. Me personally, I could see why somebody would say a Super Bowl because you only have one chance to do it.
Yeah.
But you see something like hockey, which I've kind of thought is the hardest one to win because it's hockey overall. So it's just it's a physical grind, man. You see all the time when teams are done, you see this laundry list of injuries that all these guys have suffered in the playoffs, and yet they still play through it.
Yeah.
It's a very physically exerting game. You need a hell of a lot of stamina to play a game like hockey, and it's also a thing where momentum shifts they're bigger than maybe they are in any other sport.
Yeah.
And you see this is the first time that they've had a repeat Stanley Cup rematch. I think in 16 or 17 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
That just shows you how hard it is really to make it back.
Yeah.
To the Cup final.
Yeah. Do you think, so now pivoting to the Stanley Cup, right? Do you think if the Panthers win today, right, they're 3-2 up, they win the whole thing, go back to back, they've been to 3 straight Stanley Cups. Florida as a state has been to, I think, the last 5 or 6 in a row. Is absolutely insane.
Yeah, because Tampa Bay had their little run in the 2020s.
Do you think Florida could be the team that could three-peat or just become a dynasty in general or no?
They definitely have the best chance to win 2 in a row, but you always have that championship tax that comes through after you win. They have a lot of first timers on the roster, like Seth Jones from Chicago, Brad Marchand they got from Boston.
Yeah.
So it's just about kind of capitalizing on what you have right now, but understanding that the cup tax is going to come through.
Yeah.
You could end up losing some of those guys either to free agency or trades or retirement. That's a reason why you don't see a lot of teams go back to back or winning 3 championships in a row or not, or even making it back there after losing the first time.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into it.
It does. A lot of things go into it.
Because hockey, you have to have 5 or 6 quality lines of guys, and a good goalie and different units, like a power play unit, a penalty kill unit, everything. You just have to have it top to bottom be great in quality for you to have a chance to win a cup.
Yeah, for sure. Dave, you know a lot about hockey. What's your favorite hockey team?
I am a San Jose Sharks fan.
Wow.
It's
not been great.
I only became a fan, and I really didn't pay attention to hockey until 2017 because I live in Kentucky, and we're not a place that gets marketed to a lot hockey because we
have sports in general.
The Predators. Well, the Predators are near us, but like that's still 2 hours away from where I live. But it's just in the more southern areas. Maybe you don't, and places don't have hockey immediately there. You don't get that marketed to you a lot.
Yeah.
So I became a fan in 2017 because I just wanted a hockey team.
Yeah.
And I only became a Sharks fan because I thought their mascot was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was also just around the time they were really good.
Yeah.
But they still were never able to get the job done. I mean, they had great guys like Jumbo Joe, Patrick Marleau, Joe Pavelski, Brent Burns, like a lot of great players that just could never break through and finally win the cup. So now we're just in a point where we're just in an eternal rebuild. I'm hoping that Macklin was great this year. I'm hoping that they can continue to bring young pieces up from the minor leagues, and we can get back to being good here in a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Are you into baseball?
I am into baseball.
Yes. What team you're a fan of?
I am a Cleveland Guardians fan.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's been they've been on a roller coaster, man.
Man, last year I was having the time of my life, and then this year has just been not been great.
Yeah, for sure.
Only reason I became a Guardians fan too is because so my family, my dad, and my brother specifically they're Reds fans because Cincinnati's not too far from us.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be after seeing how hockey was going, I wanted to be a baseball fan.
Yeah. And
I was like, I don't want to be a Reds fan because the Reds are terrible.
Yeah.
I've seen what the hell they put my dad and brother through. So I'm like, because my grandpa, he was from Cleveland. He was a big Cleveland sports fan, and he was a fan of they were at the time the Indians.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll just be a fan of them, and then that's already gone a lot better for me.
Yeah.
Being a Reds fan has.
Yeah. Wow. Are you into soccer?
No, I can't say I'm into soccer. No, I was raised in a football household.
Yeah.
Like my dad would always make fun of soccer, so I was never a big soccer guy. I do see the hype around it, like especially around like the World Cup and whatnot. Like
next year, I
think it was. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was last year, maybe on a bus ride. How often is it? Like I can't remember now. Like I know that there was one bus ride that we were taking either at WKU or maybe last year at Bethel, like where they had the World Cup game on the TV in the bus.
Yeah, that was crazy. Wow. What's your favorite movie to watch?
Favorite movie?
Yeah.
I've always really loved Deadpool.
Yeah.
the original one because like when that movie came out, I was 14.
Yeah.
And my parents would not let me go see it.
Yeah.
And so there was one day, I think I got back from like a big trip or whatever, like an 8th grade trip or whatever.
Yeah.
And finally, my parents were going out. And my brother had like a baseball tournament. And I was like, "Can I just watch Deadpool?" Because we had this thing where we could pirate movies and whatnot. So I was like, "I can watch it if I wanted to."
Yeah.
I asked them like, "Can I watch it?" And they're like, "Fine." And so I watched it. I loved it. And I've watched it a million times.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I liked the second one. I really liked the second one. Third one was still good, but it didn't really feel like a Deadpool movie to me at times.
Yeah.
Because it was about the multiverse and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, we've done that a million times.
Yeah. Are you into, like, comics, Marvel, DC, Image, that type of stuff?
I mean, I'm a big Batman fan.
Okay.
That's really, like, my favorite superhero. And I will watch Marvel movies. Like, I'm excited. I like how Fantastic Four looks. I like how Superman looks.
Yeah.
If the superhero movie looks good, I'll watch it. I just haven't been as invested in like the MCU since Endgame.
Yeah. What's your favorite TV show?
Man, my favorite TV show is probably like Breaking Bad.
Yes. That's a great show. That's a great show.
I love that show, man. It's like every episode is like a movie.
Yeah.
Although I did just rewatch Regular Show all the way through, and that was
fine.
That was something. And yeah, I love Regular Show. There are parts of it I'd never seen before, so I just went and rewatched the whole thing.
Yeah. Wow. Have you seen Stranger Things?
I think I've seen one episode of Stranger Things. It really didn't catch my attention that much. I was just kind of never really stuck with it. I've heard like it's been like 4 years since the last season came out.
Yeah, but the last season is gonna come out in the next couple of months. So yeah. You know, so how do you sort of kind of deal with like criticism within your contemporaries and even outside, like in football or whatever? You know, the player is not like the way that you're coaching them or whatever. How you deal with that? How you deal with that? How you process that?
I mean, dealing with criticism, it's sort of a thing. Like, it's sort of hit or miss for me. Sometimes I can take it. Sometimes, kind of gets under my skin a little more. It's really just depending on what my headspace is around that time. I mean, I've never really had an issue with how players have taken my coaching. Like, they always seem pretty open to it. From what I've seen, because I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about and I'm not kind of just pulling stuff out of my ass.
Yeah.
But like, with YouTube, that's where you do see more like direct criticism because anybody can just comment from behind a screen.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can be like whatever because it's just some dude on the YouTube comment section. But other times, like, it does get a little like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I had one guy comment under one of my posts the other day, being like, y'all are just following someone else's content. I saw this video a couple of days ago. I'm like, what? Like, no, I can send you the script. I didn't reply or anything, but I'm like, I can send you the screenshot of my editing software if you want me to. Like, I promise you, I'm not stealing someone's stuff. This is the voice coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, people are just like, some of the comments are always just like, did you even watch the video?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, right? It's always like, I mean, the reason why I mentioned Stranger Things because the lead person, have you heard of Millie Bobby Brown?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So when the show started, right, it was just a pop culture, like, it was everywhere, right? And she was getting a lot of love. Season 2, she's still getting a lot. Then season 3, something happened. Because I have never seen, someone get nitpicked the way she has been. Every statement that she says, every interview, sure, there is love inside the fan base, obviously, but outside of that, there's like this weird, like, hate movement. And it doesn't make any sense because she hasn't done anything. She hasn't said anything. And even if she did, you guys can't separate the art from the artist, right?
Yeah.
You guys can't do that. I mean, imagine if instead of talking about how great Ray Lewis was on the field, we talk about the murder case he was caught up with. I don't know if he did it or not, but that's another example of, like, again, that's why those lines sort of get blurred. How you feel about that?
Like, separating the art from the artist is definitely a thing that, it's kind of a case by case thing. Like I'm a professional wrestling fan, so like, Chris Benoit is always like the big case of like can you separate the art from the artist? And he did horrible things to his family, and it gets to the point where you can't you watch that if you watch him wrestle, the entire time in the back of your head you're thinking like, I'm watching a murderer in the ring right now. Like it's just kind of like, if it's something just like a small like maybe like a little controversy, like, and it just depends on the nature of what they did. It's a case by case thing.
It is a case by case thing.
You can never really, like, it's not really a whole blanket statement. It just depends.
Yeah, you're right. It just depends for sure. I actually, my last interview, I was talking to someone that believed like sports are like scripted or rigged in a way.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, that was very and he was cool with it. Like, he didn't fully believe in it per se, but he, like, how do you feel about that? Like, because you're in the college circuit, and I've seen people say like college football is scripted and yada yada. Like, how do you feel about that? Obviously, that's absurd. But like, how do you feel about that?
Well, at my level that I'm coaching football, we're not on TV. We're not on a big national broadcast. There's not nearly as much money put into it. So, if there were script writers, they wouldn't really put. I don't think they put the time into NAIA football, but I still hate that whole argument about sports being rigged. Like, oh, the NFL and NBA's, and why are they listed as an entertainment company? It's like, I don't know. Like, but do you really think these players are all just in on it? Like, the players and coaches are all going to agree to this, and they're all in on it, and they're fine with what's going to happen. Like, they could horrifically choke and lose. Like, you think someone like James Harden is just going to, like, be okay with his legacy being just a big playoff choker? You think that he's okay with that?
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't see people bring up is a lot of these guys have, again, it also allowed them to be so great at what they do is they have a high sense of self, right?
Like people like make these elaborate stories around it. Like they're like, oh well, the league told the Cavs they told the Warriors to blow the 3-1 lead, and then they pay Curry back later by having him win 3 championships. Like that's just stupid. Like you're looking for things that aren't there. Like it's just it's just because the Warriors also got Kevin Durant, and they won 2 championships, and then the next year or the next time they won it, it was because they had a pretty deep cast with Andrew Wiggins and Curry and Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson. They had they were a championship caliber team. It's not like the Warriors are just like scrubs.
Yeah, it's one of those.
It's not a script.
Yeah, I know. It's just what they love to. Granted, I'm a Muslim, right? But they love to bring the religious aspect into it. Oh, God and Satan. I'm like, again, like go to a psych ward, my God. This isn't for you.
I do always make a joke that Tom Brady was God's favorite player. That's why he won so many championships and stuck around for so long. But like, I'm not seriously thinking like why God, why are the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? How could you do this?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I look at there's this movie that's coming out. It's called Him, starring like Martin Wayans and this guy from Atlanta, and it looks gnarly. Like it looks part like The Substance and Black Swan, a little bit of horror. It's very interesting. I saw that trailer the first time was when I watched Sinners. Did you watch Sinners?
My family has. I wasn't back home at that time, so I didn't get to see it.
It's a great movie. You will love it.
I've heard it is.
So like again, like it's just one of those things. Like it's all about perspective, right? Like think about like the guys I have gotten to be interviews. I literally interviewed this guy from Sportsnet. Like it's like the ESPN of Canada, right?
Yeah, I know Sportsnet. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed him right for 2.5 hours, and great guy. Shout out to him. But I never got the sense I was speaking to someone that like had to like do all those crazy stuff. Like to me, it's like just go outside and talk to people, man. Like staying in your house, like. Unless you're sick or whatever, like it's not a good thing.
NFL. I know guys who are in the NFL, and like I've asked before, like they give you your script, and you'd be like, "What do you?" You're like, "No."
You actually asked him that question?
Like Malachi Corley guy was talking about it. I think I asked him before, like about his. I joked with him about his script because like he told me one time he thought it was at one point, and then he actually went to the league, and I think I asked him something about it, and he kind of just laughed.
Wow!
Like, you get your script.
Wow.
But then I bring that up to people, they're like, well, of course they're not going to tell you they got it. And it's like, man, y'all just looking for everything, man.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, for sure. I mean, I really feel like there is a big sort of media illiteracy problem going on, and that doesn't help, or people just don't look at the sources. Well, part of that has to do with the sports media, though. The sports media is in the dumpster right now. Like, I've said for a while now that I don't watch like sports media really, like the stuff on ESPN for the most part. Like I think that they really only are there for spewing hot takes and getting people to click on their videos on YouTube and Twitter, and they're not really there to make good, compelling debates and arguments. They're just there to rile players up and rile fans up and get them to tune into the next show and bring attention to themselves instead of actually just covering the league. Like you have some standouts. Like I like Scott Van Pelt. I like Mina Kimes. Yeah, I like there are people that I like, but for the most part, it's just not for me, man. That's why I get a lot of my sports fix off YouTube. Yeah, because those are guys that they know what they're talking about. They're not going. Yeah, they're not going to like a network. Yeah, and they're just talking as a guy. They may put on a bit of a character or whatnot sometimes, but it's still them talking. Yeah, and you know that for sure. Yeah, for sure. What type of music do you listen to? I listen to a lot of old school country, and then some rock. Like it varies. Got some metal, some grunge, some alternative. You don't listen to hip hop?
I don't hate it. Just not my kind of thing. Like it's I'll listen to it like they play it in the weight room in football when we're doing weightlifting and everything. But it's not something that I'm gonna just turn away from. But it ain't gonna be my first choice either.
It's interesting you mentioned like country because it feels like country now is kind of like it's kind of going on a little bit of a run recently, especially like Morgan Wallen and Jelly Roll and all these other dudes. Like, how do you like? Do you like that type of stuff, or do you sort of stay clear from that?
I mean, I like Jelly Roll. I don't listen to like a lot of his music, but I do like him and I do like some of his songs, but never been a big Morgan Wallen guy. And anybody who knows me could tell you that I do not. I have a bit of a dislike for Morgan Wallen. I've never been a huge fan of his music.
Yeah.
I do like some newer guys like I like Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
And there's some new songs and artists that I don't hate, but for the most part I stick to like the songs that maybe I listened to growing up, or like old school guys like George Jones and Johnny Cash and George Strait, those kind of guys.
Okay, interesting. How do you feel when people sort of like dismiss country as a genre of music that deserves to be as appreciated as others? Did you listen to Beyonce's Cowboy Carter last year?
I mean, is that the one where it's like talking about "This Is Texas"? That sort of song.
Yeah, Texas Hold'em. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not hear that? I mean, it was hearing it everywhere. But country definitely has its place. It may not. But it still feels pretty mainstream, especially today, because Morgan Wallen, as much as I don't really like him, I think he's played a big part in bringing country back to the mainstream and up front. And that's something, I guess. It's not the kind of country music that I am a big fan of, but it has exposed more people to country music, and maybe some way they want to go back and listen to the old stuff, listen to the old good stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever encountered a witch?
A witch?
Yeah, somebody who's into that stuff. Have you ever encountered them? And if you did, how did that conversation go?
Like, you mean like a witch? Like, I can't say I've ever encountered a witch before in my life. I didn't think. I know that some people out there do practice the voodoo and magic and all that stuff, but I can't really say I've ran into one of those. All right.
Who is the most famous person to say, "Man, I love your coaching, I love your work," type of stuff? You mentioned NFL players, but I'm just wondering if there's somebody higher than that on the totem pole.
I have the coaches that I've worked with, the coach that coach of the Dolphins in Texas. Like I text him every now and then. I've let him know about like coaching and everything. Yeah. I haven't really had any big names like tell me anything about my YouTube content. I have had I have had people that I will say though I haven't spoken to in years. Like if they see me, they'll be like, "Yeah, I watched the YouTube videos. Like keep it up." And that's been pretty cool to see. But so far, and granted, I haven't been doing either coaching or YouTube for very long, so it's not the thing where I haven't really had anybody so far reach out to either one of those aspects and be like, "Yeah, you're doing great," but I'm sure the time will come for both of those things.
What's the future of your content YouTube / coaching career? Where do you want to be? Do you want to become an NFL head coach? You want to become a GM or scout? Where do you want to be on the totem pole?
I for coaching wise, we're just kind of playing it as time goes on. I've told people I take things one day at a time. I do have some moonshot goals both for coaching and for the YouTube channel, but you always kind of want to stay on your feet, stay where your feet are at, and see where things take you. For the YouTube channel, I just want to keep making content that both I enjoy and the fans enjoy as well. They really seem to enjoy the recent string of videos of Was He Any Good videos. And that's what brings in the views. And hopefully, because I've made content some content that I believe is better than some of the Was He Any Good videos that I've made, and hopefully when they see those videos, they'll come in and be like, "Oh, this other stuff's good too. I'll stick around and subscribe." Yeah,
for sure. Who is your celebrity crush growing up, and who is one now? I don't know if you have a girlfriend or anything like that.
I do not have a girlfriend.
Okay.
As a kid, I always liked Carrie Underwood.
Really?
I saw her every Sunday night on on the NFL. Saw her singing the Sunday Night Football theme song. I always really liked her. Now, I'm trying to think. Like, I do like Jenna Ortega.
Oh wow! Okay. Okay, I didn't expect that.
I do like Jenna Ortega.
All right. For me, my favorite, probably my biggest celebrity crush right now is probably like Millie Bobby Brown, Haley Steinfeld. Funny enough, she's with Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish. I actually really like Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets. That's a really good show. Mikey Madison from Nora, she's up there. There's a lot. It changes all the time.
Yeah,
for sure. Now we're nearing the end of the interview. We're gonna play this little game where I'm gonna give you two people, two franchises, two players, or whatever. You have to pick who's better, right? But it's kind of inspired by Drink Champs, like this hip hop podcast. But there's no drinks. You can't say both, and you can't say neither. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Josh Allen or John Elway?
John Elway.
Okay. Patrick Mahomes or Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning.
Okay.
That's my favorite player right there.
All
so
right.
that's kind of awesome.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre?
Say Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Mike Evans or Devontae Adams?
Mike Evans.
Okay. Wow. Tyreek Hill or Julio Jones? I'm talking about peak.
See, peak Julio, like, he was something different, man. That's the tough one right there. I'd probably still go for Tyreek.
Okay.
Just because Tyreek has the ability to make those crazy catches, and his speed is incredible.
Yeah, it is. Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey?
See, that's really two different kinds of running backs right there too.
Yeah.
So that's because McCaffrey. See, Saquon probably. See, it's the thing because like Saquon also just won the offense. He won the Offensive Player of the Year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. McCaffrey operates really well, both running the ball and catching the ball.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think right now I'd probably still go McCaffrey.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Derrick Henry or Aaron Dickerson?
See, I know Eric Dickerson was good in his day. I'm not as familiar with his game though. I'd probably go with Derrick Henry.
Okay. Lamar Jackson or Drew Brees?
My brother's a Saints fan, so I don't. He's a big Drew Brees guy, but I think Drew Brees, is better all the time than Lamar.
Okay. All right. Andy Reid or Bill Walsh?
What team did Bill Walsh coach for?
Niners with Joe Montana.
Oh, he's with the Dynasty.
Yeah.
See, I'm more familiar with Andy Reid's history too. I mean, like did Bill Walsh do you know where he coached before San Fran? Like any major coaching stints?
I think he was a college coach. Like I don't know what program though. That's the same.
Because Andy Reid, like this is really his first taste of like championships and success and everything. So like his story, is a bit of a redemption thing because he was in Philadelphia for all those years and they were good teams. They just were never able to get the job done. Even his first years in Kansas City it was just going to be the same thing until he got Mahomes.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough one because I mean you got two generational quarterbacks on both teams and two great coaches. How many championships did the Niners win in that time?
I think Bill Walsh has like 3 or 4. I think.
Probably go him then right now. I think Andy Reid could end up having more success, but
yeah,
I mean,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Aaron Donald or Lawrence Taylor?
Well, Lawrence Taylor is more of an outside guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's another thing where they're both dominant in their positions. Aaron Donald was just a genetic freak. I mean, he was huge, but he was also
super fast.
I've seen pictures of him. He's made up of a lot of muscle too.
Yeah,
which is wild.
Yeah,
I remember seeing a video of I think it was Geno Smith. He saw Aaron Donald coming his way on a pass rush. He's like, oh my god, something like that.
Yeah.
Lawrence Taylor was, I think he was one of the only defensive players to ever win MVP in a season.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got two Hall of Fame defensive linemen right there. Just man, it's a bit harder to compare because they're both technically defensive line kind of guys. But one is an outside guy, I can see more as an edge rusher, while the other one is an interior guy.
Yeah.
Shoot. I would probably go. I'd probably go Lawrence Taylor.
Okay. All right. Bruce Smith or Reggie White?
Bruce Smith was with
Buffalo, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Reggie White. See, some of these older guys I'm not as familiar with as I probably should be, but
yeah.
I think I still have a Bruce. I'm just trying to think of, because Reggie White, he was with the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say Reggie White.
Okay. T.J. Watt or Myles Garrett?
See, it's I think that T.J. Watt, I think already at this point is better than his brother is.
Yeah.
Really, with the accomplishments he's had.
Yeah.
But Myles Garrett's also, a generational talented edge rusher.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where they both do play the same spot, so you really could see.
Yeah.
I think right now I'd still give it to T.J. Watt.
Okay. All right. Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins? Peak.
Peak?
Yeah, peak. Yeah.
I mean, I think Jared Goff's peak is still better than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was definitely good for sure, but I think Jared Goff has evolved his game. Granted, he's had some good offensive players, but like I said, we've said before, you need that to really shine in this league. I think they are, on a similar tier quarterback, but I think that Jared Goff is just a little better.
Okay. Dak Prescott or Tony Romo?
That's two Cowboys quarterbacks who could have won a lot more than what they did. I think overall Dak Prescott is better than Tony Romo.
Okay. Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb?
I go Jamar Chase.
Okay. Travis Kelce or Terry Holt?
Holt played for the Rams.
Yeah, played for the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kelce is. He's in contention for. As much as it hurts me to say, he's in contention for being one of the greatest tight ends of all time. So
yeah,
I got to go with Travis Kelce as much as I don't like him on the field. Off the field, it's kind of a mixed thing. I like his podcast with him and Jason, but
yeah,
I don't really.
Yeah,
I don't really like all the times he just showed Taylor Swift up in the crowd.
Yeah. Johnny Cash or Frank Sinatra?
I do love me both Johnny Cash and Frank Sinatra. I guess I like more of Cash's library than Sinatra.
Okay.
I go Johnny Cash.
Okay. DMX or Tupac?
Tupac.
Okay. Wow. Kanye West or Kendrick Lamar?
It's just kind of a crazy one to ask right now. I mean, Kanye. See, it's that's the thing where you have to separate the art from the artist, man. You got his fans being like, oh, but he made Graduation. And Graduation is a great album.
Yeah.
I listened to that. I think I have listened to a lot more Kanye than I have Kendrick Lamar. And Kendrick Lamar is really good for sure, but I think you have to take away all the anti-Semitism and racism and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'd still would. I go Kanye West.
Okay. Drake or Lil Wayne?
Lil Wayne.
Okay. All right. Eminem or Elvis Presley?
That's such like polarizing kind of figures right there. I like some Elvis, but Eminem I remember listening. He was like the rapper I listened to a lot.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'd go Eminem.
Okay. Chance the Rapper or Jack Harlow?
See, I haven't listened to a lot of either one of those guys, but I don't mind Chance the Rapper.
Okay. Pusha T or Mos Def?
Shoot. This is where my lack of music knowledge comes in. I'm not really like am not familiar with either one of those guys.
Okay. All right. Wu-Tang Clan or NWA?
NWA.
Okay. Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay-Z.
Okay. Bob Marley or Vybz Kartel?
I like Bob Marley.
Okay. Billie Eilish or Lana Del Rey?
Go Billie Eilish.
Okay. Prince or Beyonce?
Prince.
Okay. Taylor Swift or Paul McCartney?
Shoot, I mean, like, if we're talking about like early Taylor Swift, like she had when she was trying to be a country singer, like she had some bangers, man. Like, Romeo and Juliet, and what's like you belong with me. Those are some bangers, man. Like, I was never a big Beatles or Paul McCartney guy. I'd go Taylor Swift.
Okay. All right. Toronto or Chicago as cities?
See, I've been to Chicago before. I've never been to Toronto. Chicago, of course, I went on a mission trip there, so it could have been a bit of a bridged experience, but I still had a good time.
Yeah.
Being around the city and everything. Yeah. And, so I just go Chicago.
Okay. Okay. Kyle Shanahan or Mike Tomlin?
See, Shanahan he's definitely a great he's a great coach for sure. He's a great offensive coach. I mean, he was the OC for the Falcons whenever they had that insane offense in 2016. Yeah. It's just that for one reason or another, like there's been some mistakes that have prevented him from winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, you could have some criticism towards him as well because, it seems like the Steelers, just as an organization, they kind of are okay with just being okay.
Yeah.
But Tomlin, I think, is still a top-tier coach in the league. There are a lot of teams that would love to have Mike Tomlin as their head coach. And you got to think Mike Tomlin has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Shanahan has not. So it's just what are you really wanting here, like in terms of what you're getting from the coach? You're getting like some stability, I think, from Tomlin. You're getting a guy, I think, who is maybe better at in some ways of leading a team, but Shanahan clearly, like his focus is he's a great offensive mind.
Yeah,
I think I'd still go Mike Tomlin just because he has led a championship team before. I think Shanahan could. If just one or two things don't go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud?
See, that's CJ Stroud. He's coming off a bit of a down year. I think he still has a lot of skills. It could be like a bit of a recency bias thing. Jaden Daniels looked great, but you never know what's going to happen in the next year or so. With the same thing I said about Bo Nix, where he could have that sophomore slump. If I wanted a quarterback right now, I think I'd probably still go Jaden Daniels just because he showed to be a little more versatile than C.J. Stroud, and he has that immediate postseason success. Which, granted, C.J. Stroud also won a playoff game in his rookie year too, but Jane Daniels would go a little farther against harder teams. So I think right now I would still go Jane Daniels.
Okay. Batman or Spider-Man?
Batman.
Okay. Wow. All right. Megan Fox or Millie Bobby Brown?
Megan Fox.
Okay. All right. All right. Tom Cruise or Jackie Chan?
She probably Jackie Chan. Tom Cruise is a bit of a crazy person too.
Yeah. Mission Impossible or Star Wars?
No, Star Wars for sure.
All right. Okay. Natalie Portman or Keira Knightley?
You're Natalie Portman.
Okay. Marilyn Monroe or Audrey Hepburn?
Audrey Hepburn.
Okay. Kaylee Speeney or Maya Hawke?
I gotta see. What'd you say the first one was?
Kaylee Speeney. She was part of the new Aliens movie. She played Priscilla in a biopic. She's gonna be in a new Knives Out movie with Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig. Maya Hawke, obviously Stranger Things. She did a couple things with Netflix. She was in that new. Wes Anderson movie. So, again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I like Kaylee Speeney.
Okay. Sophie Thatcher or Mikey Madison?
I gotta look up pictures here now. Sophie Thatcher. And then what's the other?
Mikey Madison. She won the Oscar for Best Actress for Nora, literally this year.
I like Mikey Madison.
Okay. Carrie Underwood or Whitney Houston?
I still go Carrie Underwood.
Okay. A$AP Rocky or Travis Scott?
Yeah, I mean, probably Travis Scott. Even though, like, I'm a wrestling fan, so I've had to see him sometimes and wrestling a couple times, which has not been great. But I'd still probably pick him.
All right. Okay. DC or Marvel?
More of a DC guy, even though Marvel's made better movies.
All right. Teen Titans or SpongeBob?
I was always a huge SpongeBob guy as a kid. Still am now, kind of.
Okay. Regular show or Amazing World of Gumball?
Oh, regular show. Even though Amazing World of Gumball is fire, but regular show is just a different level.
Yeah. Haley Steinfeld or Amy Adams?
I really like Amy Adams.
Yeah. Ben Stiller or Owen Wilson?
Owen Wilson, I know he was in a lot of good movies with Vince Vaughn. He was also in Cars too, so that's a plus. Ben Stiller, I know him from like Night at the Museum and Lion King, or not Lion King, Madagascar. Madagascar, not Lion King. But I'd probably still go Owen Wilson. I think he was in Wedding Crashers. Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah. Okay. Ben Affleck or Matt Damon?
I'd probably go Ben Affleck. I think he was okay as Batman. That's really what.
Okay.
The first thing comes to my head for him.
All right. Okay. Ana de Armas or Gal Gadot?
Who's the first one?
Ana de Armas. She was in Knives Out. She was in the new James Bond movie in 2021. She's in a new ballerina movie, like the John Wick spinoff thing. I don't know if you know her or not.
Let's see.
Okay.
What's her name was again?
Gal Gadot. She's like Wonder Woman.
I know Gal Gadot. What was the first one you said?
Ana de Armas.
Dude, I'd probably still pick Gal Gadot.
Okay. James Bond or Star Trek?
Yeah, I've seen one Star Trek movie, and I've seen like I don't think I've seen any James Bond movies. I'd have to go Star Trek then. Based
Okay.
on
Okay. All right. James Cameron or George Lucas?
that. James Cameron's made a lot of good stuff. I'm probably still more familiar with because James Cameron, his big thing is like Terminator, right?
Yeah. In the Avatar movies.
And Avatar, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But George Lucas, I mean, Star Wars is probably one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah.
So I probably just pick George Lucas.
Okay. All right. These are YouTube channels, okay? KTO or Urinating Tree?
Urinating Tree.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, KTO's still fire though. I like KTO.
Yeah. Flemmo Raps or Andrew Finkel?
I feel like I've seen Flembo raps before. It's like my YouTube. Let me see. Yeah, I've seen some things in and out. What was the second one?
Andrew Finkel. He does NBA, NFL shorts. He does like these very detailed like breakdowns. I literally interviewed him a couple months ago, so that was pretty cool.
Probably still go Flembo raps.
All right. Okay. Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert?
I go Jalen Hurts right now.
Okay. Let's see. Tua Tagovailoa or Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray.
Okay. Interesting. DeAndre Hopkins or Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown.
Okay. Justin Jefferson or Chris Carter?
Chris Carter also played for the Vikings too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say I still say Justin Jefferson right now.
Okay. The Weeknd or Frank Ocean?
I do like The Weeknd.
Okay. Daft Punk or Justice?
Or Daft Punk.
All right. Aphex Twin or Autechre?
What kind of music is that? I don't think I've heard either one of those guys.
It's some experimental electronic music. I don't know if you listen.
Oh, so it's sort of like is it in the same kind of group as like Daft Punk?
Not really. Like Daft Punk's more like house and funk and like Aphex Twin's music is very diverse, but like he's on that like very like how can I say this? Experimental music essentially.
Yeah, I got you. I don't think I've heard either one of those stuff.
All right, that's fine. Florence Pugh or Kate Winslet?
Say Florence Pugh.
Okay. 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 Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay. Al Pacino or Robert De Niro?
Or Robert De Niro.
Okay. Christopher Nolan or Stanley Kubrick?
And Christopher Nolan did make the greatest superhero movie, at least in my opinion, of all time. I'd go Christopher Nolan.
Okay. Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg?
Spielberg.
Okay. Quentin Tarantino or Brian De Palma?
Tarantino.
Alright. Okay. Dave Chappelle or George Carlin?
Probably Dave Chappelle.
Okay. Richard Pryor or Cat Williams?
I like Cat Williams.
Alright. Okay. Kevin Hart or Bernie Mac?
See, I know I've seen some of Bernie Mac's stuff. I thought it was really funny. Like Kevin Hart, I know like he's kind of been everywhere at this point. I'd probably go with Bernie Mac.
Okay. Emma Stone or Anya Taylor-Joy?
Emma Stone.
Okay. Darren Aronofsky or David Fincher?
I go Aronofsky.
Okay. Jenna Ortega or Sadie Sink?
Jenna Ortega.
Okay. All right. Ronaldo or Messi?
Yeah, I know. Like, not a huge soccer guy, but I know probably Ronaldo. So I hear more about.
Okay.
Even though Messi, like he's playing for like FC Miami, right?
Yeah, Inter Miami. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's because I'm on like Heat Twitter, and I have some people that follow that, and they talk about Messi on that team.
Yeah. Eric Spoelstra or Rick Carlisle?
Eric Spoelstra for sure.
Okay. Jimmy Butler or Scottie Pippen?
I think all time Scottie Pippen. I still would take Scottie Pippen. Like he's a better player all time, and Jimmy Butler, though he does turn it up in the playoffs for the most part. This year, not so much, but I think overall I'd still take Scottie Pippen all time.
Yeah. Jason Tatum or Paul Pierce?
Dude, not a huge Celtics guy, so I gotta really dig down deep here to get any praise out of them. Especially Paul Pierce. That dude, like, whenever he was going on his whole thing about Dwayne Wade, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Saying he's better than Dwayne Wade? Like, give me a break. They're both great all-time players, or I think Tatum can be. Paul Pierce, he's got his place in NBA history for sure. I don't know if he's like a top tier guy, definitely not, but
yeah,
he's a great all-time player and a Boston legend for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, I would say Paul Pierce just because he was with them for so long and he also helped win a championship.
Yeah.
Tatum, I think, could end up being higher than Paul Pierce all time for the Celtics, especially if they win another championship. But right now, I'm going to go Paul Pierce.
Okay. Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant?
See, that's another different thing. Because like their stories are what people like really base their whole legacies around. Because Kawhi, Kawhi is the guy that, especially his whole run with the Raptors, shaped his entire legacy. Really, because the Raptors were still good, but bringing him in, I don't think, I'm sure there were expectations, but the way that he did it all, and Kevin Durant's kind of the opposite, where he had, he's had a lot of longevity too. Had not really missed a lot of big seasons with injury, maybe one or two, but his rings are very tainted in the eyes of many, myself included. I've kind of like, I'm a Heat fan. They're talking about him coming to Miami, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Like, if this is 2016 or even 2022, it'd be like, yeah, bring him in, but not at this point, man. And I think that, who I like more, probably Kawhi, but who's the better all-time player? I'd say Kevin Durant.
Okay. Steph Curry or Magic Johnson?
Steph Curry.
Okay. Well,
I've kind of he's the greatest point guard of all time, at least to me. He's become that.
Yeah. Okay. Bill Russell or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Oh, Kareem for sure.
Okay. Shaq or Jokic?
Shaq.
Okay.
Shaq's just if he really worked right, he could have been like the most dominant player in NBA history. It's just that he just decided to do more side projects. Basketball, he was so good at basketball, he really didn't need to train as much as others may, and he didn't have that drive that Kobe did. Yeah, which I don't think anybody else really did. But if him and Shaq were on the same wavelength like that, then who knows how much they could have really won. I think Jokic, like all around, has more skills. Like he's a better playmaker. Well, I think he's a better playmaker than Shaq. Yeah, and he's a more diverse scorer. But that's also just Shaq. Big men around Shaq's time weren't shooting threes, so he didn't really have to worry about having an outside shot, especially when he can get so much just from backing dudes down and dunking on them. Yeah. Okay. Shea or Giannis? Right now, if we're talking about all time here, I'd say Giannis. But I mean, it's kind of because Shea is leading is helping lead his team to a championship right now, and he's got a good skill set, especially offensively. Giannis, though, I think he thrives on both ends of the ball. Like, Shea is by no means a bad defender. Like, I don't really think so, but Giannis is just like he won Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. He's a great defensive player, and he can also get his on offense. So I'd probably still say Giannis.
Okay.
Even though Shea won the MVP.
Okay. Donovan Mitchell or Anthony Edwards?
I think I would say, like, because, Donovan Mitchell hasn't had as much postseason success, even though he's been there every year. I would say Donovan Mitchell, just because he is most of the time able to go, like, the entire game. Like, actually just being out, like, scoring and contributing. Anthony Edwards, if we've seen anything from this year's playoffs, like, he always took so long to get going.
Yeah.
And ended up hurting his team in the end.
Yeah. Rudy Gobert or Ben Wallace?
Well, I think Rudy Gobert he's a little better offensively than Ben Wallace. I mean, it didn't really take much to be better offensively than Ben Wallace. He was never that's not what he was brought in for.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Wallace, I think, is more impressive just because he was a bit of an undersized guy who still managed to be a stud on defense and won 4 Defensive Players of the Year.
Yeah.
I probably right now would say Ben Wallace.
Okay, interesting. Raven from Teen Titans or Gwen from Total Drama Island?
Oh, Lord. I'd probably say Gwen from Total Drama.
Okay. Ben 10 or Total Drama Island?
I was a huge Ben 10 kid, so I gotta go Ben 10.
Alright, okay. Deathstroke or Deadshot?
I like Deathstroke.
Okay. Terra or Jinx? Both of them in the Teen Titans comics and show.
I like Jinx.
Okay. Freddie Mercury or Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson.
Okay. Dr. Dre or Rick Rubin?
Probably Dr. Dre.
Okay. Metro Booming or Mike Will Made It?
Metro Boom.
Okay. Pharrell or Timbaland?
Probably for real.
Okay. Rihanna or Britney Spears?
I like Britney Spears.
Okay.
I'd go with her.
Alright. Olivia Rodrigo or Miley Cyrus?
Probably Olivia Rodrigo.
Okay. Justin Timberlake or Robin Thicke?
Justin Timberlake.
Okay. Bryson Tiller or Brent Faiyaz?
Yeah, are those musicians? I'm not really familiar with that.
That's fine. The Rock or Mark Wahlberg?
Probably go with Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
He's a much better actor. The Rock is just playing himself and everything.
All right. John Cena or Dave Bautista?
They're both great. I would still go John Cena, even though Batista is a very underrated guy. People like, are we talking about acting or wrestling here? Because I
say acting.
Batista.
Okay, you can use wrestling
if
too.
If that's the case, if we're going strictly by acting, I'm going Batista because Batista is a much better actor than he's probably the best wrestler turned actor.
Yeah. Okay. Kate Renata or Dead Mouse?
Probably Dead Mouse.
Okay. Okay. Kendrick Lamar is GNX or Kanye West Yeezus?
Those. What are those exactly? I'm not really
Yeah. So Kanye West Yeezus was one of his most polarizing albums before he himself became what he became. 2013 dropped. Kendrick Lamar GNX, last year dropped, and that they say.
Oh, was that the Drake stuff and everything?
Yeah, some of that is in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably go that one then.
All right. Okay. These are like college football teams. Okay. Alabama or LSU?
LSU.
Okay. Texas Tech or Miami?
Miami.
Okay. Michigan or Ohio State?
Ohio State.
All right. Okay. Thinking. All right. Damian Lillard or Kyrie Irving?
All time, Kyrie Irving is better for sure. I don't understand. And like Damian Lillard is great for sure. I mean, that dude got put on the NBA 75 team, and I thought that was crazy, man. Like,
yeah,
Dwight Howard wasn't on that list, and yet Damian Lillard was, which I thought was blasphemous.
Yeah. Speaking of Dwight Howard or Anthony Davis?
I mean, Dwight in his peak was very like there wasn't much like Dwight in his prime, like, especially like defending the paint, being able to score in the paint as well. Anthony Davis, I think, had the perk of kind of coming up in the time where the big men were starting to shoot a little more.
Yeah.
But I think still, if you put like prime Dwight Howard against prime Anthony Davis, I'd probably still go with Dwight Howard.
Okay. All right. Pascal Siakam or Chris Webber?
I think individually, Chris Webber is definitely better.
Okay. Kyle Lowry or Chauncey Billups?
Chauncey Billups.
Okay. Paul George or T-Mac?
Tracy McGrady.
Okay. Hamburgers or fish and chips?
More of a hamburger guy.
Okay. Smoothies or milkshake?
Milkshake.
All right. Okay. Popeyes or KFC?
Popeyes.
All right.
It could be sacrilege in Kentucky, but
yeah.
Popeyes is better.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
Okay. Des Bryant or Amari Cooper?
Des Bryant.
All right. Okay. Ezekiel Elliott or Todd Gurley?
Todd Gurley.
Okay. All right. Chris Jones or Derek Thomas?
I think Chris Jones.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley?
What team does Derek Stingley play for?
Texans.
I think Stingley, like, Sauce Gardner had a bit of a down year last year. I think I'd probably go Stingley right now.
All right. Okay. Pat Surtain or Trent McDuffie?
Who was the first guy?
Pat Surtain.
Let's go Trent McDuffie.
Wow. Okay. All right, the second last one. GTA or Last of Us?
GTA.
All right. The last one. Need for Speed or Forza?
Or Need for Speed.
Bonus one. Otani or Bonds?
Man, I'm been on that big I'm not there are a lot of guys who want Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. I've been kind of against that because the whole steroid thing. Probably I don't know Barry Bonds though. Like he did the treatment he got from like pitchers and stuff is probably something you never see most people get again. Like,
yeah,
just all the intentional walks. He's probably like up there.
Yeah,
for like the all-time leaders in intentional walks. I'd still go Bonds just because he was insanely good before he did all the steroids and whatnot. But, Otani is still going to be an all-time great player.
Double bonus: Jose Bautista or Josh Donaldson?
I like Joey Bats.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, man. It was a real honor. I didn't think you would say yes to this interview. I'm always kind of hyper conscious about that stuff, always kind of expecting rejection, but I really appreciate you coming on and having a genuine conversation. I'm rooting for you, bro. College and football and stuff like that, because you never know, bro. You might be coaching NFL 10, 15 years, man. It might be new Sean McVay, you never know, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, have a nice day, my man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
See ya.
That's it.
That is another interview, another episode of the Renegade podcast. Hope you guys enjoy this one the same way I joined this one, putting this one together. Hope you guys have a nice day. See you guys later.